Yeah, we almost started the podcast without actually starting the podcast. Start officially the podcast, new Poker Life podcast. My name's Joey One, aka Chicago with Joey. Poker Life podcast on iTunes. Search Poker Life. What else do I have here, guys? And one of the sponsors, they technically aren't sponsoring this episode, but I'm going to shout them anyway. I'mAWhale.com. They do staking for tournaments, for Pop Limit Omaha, for No Limit Hold'em cash games and tournaments online and live. They also get people on some of these untracked sites where I don't know what's happening on the sites. Be careful you play on them. And they do coaching as well too. They're one of the companies I'm working with right now. I might do some more with them in the future in terms of Pop Limit Omaha, but big shout out to them. I'mAWhale.com. That's it. Joining me today on the podcast is a young man who is one of my favorite people to talk with in poker because he's a unique man. Listen, man, I think a lot of people in poker like to conform and end up being very boring personalities, and I can understand why, but this man is not a boring personality at all. This man, I didn't even know this guy was retired from poker. This was a shock to me too. I just learned he's retired from poker, and we're definitely going to talk about that. But he's a man who started doing a bankroll challenge. I think he's probably going to win the bankroll challenge in like a month or two or something like that, maybe even less than a month. And yeah, man, I'm just excited to have him on. He's my tank top brother in arms and my long hair brother in arms, even though my hair's not that long right now.
That's an ambitious adjective for yourself there, sir.
We're joined by Charlie Carroll, aka Epiphany77.
Sick. It's good to be here. You've kind of toned down the starting build-up introductions. Is that a tactical choice?
Well, I was on the point, but then once we started doing the podcast, before I started doing the podcast, then I got out of rhythm. You could kind of tell when I started. And I was like, wait, where am I going with this? Because we were actually we were talking about something I'm very interested in. So then I was like, I'm thinking about this, and I was like, oh, I got to start. Shit, let me start this up. And I was trying to bring that fire, that passion.
All right. I'm actually thinking about doing my own podcast with people, probably not poker podcasts, but I can give the intro a go if you want.
Let's hear it. Go ahead.
All right. And here we have on his own podcast, we have representing the ambassador of PLO, Pop Limit Omaha, the one and only Chicago Puppy, Joey Ingram. All right. Where can I go better? Listen. That is my Joey impression, guys. That's not how I'm actually going to do my own podcast.
My God, that's like a WWF or WWE or something like that. That's like a wrestling intro right there. That was perfect. I feel embarrassed for the intro I gave right now.
Yeah, no, me too, man.
Hold on a second. Let me drink some water here.
One day you'll get up to these wuthering heights.
Joining me on the podcast, a young man who will be the second person this month to complete the bankroll challenge. A man that said, fuck GTO. I don't know what he's talking about. Fuck GTO. Is this guy out of his fucking mind? We're going to talk more about it with them today. We got Charlie Carroll in the house. What up, Big Poppy? What's happening, Charlie? What's going on? Okay, hold on. Get warmed up now.
I bow to you, Sensei. I bow to you.
No, it's kind of like it's like a breathing exercise, you know. Before you get on the stage, you gotta like take it in. You gotta
it's like anti-meditation breathing. I like it.
Exactly. You know, we're micro-dosing on introductions here right now. We're getting pretty excited. So yesterday we were supposed to do the podcast. You had a pepper ailment. Was this actually a pepper ailment? What was that?
Yeah, legit. If I was going to come up with an excuse, it'd be better than peppers. Yeah, I've got a ridiculously strict diet at the moment because my microbiome's fucked, which, by the way, like 95% of your watching, your microbiome's probably fucked. But mine is super fucked. It's like the epitome of fucked. And I've got a nutritionist who's telling me to eat this now and then, and he's got like a lot of supplements. He's literally the best fucking nutritionist in the world. But he told me to avoid lectins, and lazy ass Charlie here decided not to Google search what lectins were, and it turns out lectins are in peppers, and they kind of act like gluten in my system. So yeah.
Are we gonna do we want to shout the nutritionist out? Do we want to show him a little love? Do we want to tell people where we can find the nutritionist in case people want to find him too?
You'll find him under like Rowan the Modern Sensei, but he'll be on a podcast that I'm gonna do maybe in like a month or so once I've kind of got the results. He is genuinely one of the smartest people I've ever met. I've been in touch with so many top nutritionists just because I love this kind of shit, and he is levels fucking above anyone I've ever spoken to. He can cure people of fucking anything. He can cure literally like all skin diseases that you get on your face and your arms. They all come from your gut, and you don't hear this in the West because it's cheaper not to treat the actual underlying issue. It's more beneficial for them to just treat a billion different symptoms, and that is not just skin diseases. It's like dementia. Fucking, he thinks autism as well, which like there's a I believe him, but I'm gonna let him speak about that for himself, and just like a billion other things. So shout out to fucking Rowan, the loveliest dude. And yeah, I'm gonna post everything he says on my YouTube, and I just want his information to just be to everyone. It's gonna be so sick.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm in. You sold me already. I want to know where he is. I want to employ him. I want to hear what he's got to say. Alex Crypto has already got a question in the chat. I got chronic fatigue from mold. How do I find him? Listen, I think we all want to interested in hearing.
From what? Chronic fatigue from what?
From
How
mold.
do I get him? From mold?
From mold. Yeah. I want to go back and give it a quick intro. If you guys don't know much about Charlie's been, I don't even playing poker, Charlie. It seems like you've been playing for a long time, but I know you haven't been playing for a super long time, right?
Yeah. I mean, like, including the last year when I've been kind of retired, I think it's like 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years. And rose the ranks pretty quickly. I think you kind of started building up a following. I think you did some stuff with maybe Grips back in the day, and then kind of just really kept working hard. And then I don't know where this retirement exactly came from. This was actually news to me that you went in retirement, but you came out the bankroll challenge. And I think people really enjoy your personality. I think people really enjoy hearing what you have to say. I know we've talked about you potentially doing some sort of content or something like that in the past. And you finally decided, I'm going to do a stream. And now you're hopping in the podcast. I mean, why not? But I think you're perfect for doing things like this, man. You got the personality. You don't really, it seems I don't know if you care what people have to say in terms of the negatives or the positives or any of that feedback, how that affects you. But it seems like you're pretty well suited to deal with all that kind of stuff that's going to come from putting yourself out there, and maybe putting yourself out there in a non-traditional, non-standard way of the things you're talking about. And yeah, what are you kind of prepared for potentially dealing with that stuff?
Well, that is very flattering, firstly, sir. Thank you very much. I definitely read the comments that people leave on YouTube. I think that it's one of the most underrated feedback loops in the whole of the modern generation, because I mean, it's literally someone saying their opinion of you, and through an anonymous filter, where you never usually get that. You know, if you see someone on the tube looking at you weird, they could be thinking 1,000 different things, like he's a cunt, or I like his clothes, or anything like that. But with the anonymous filter of the internet and people being their keyboard warrior selves, I really love it. And I try my best not to ban anyone from the Twitch chat. There are like a couple of sweet spots where people can hit me that will put me off kilter and kind of like tilt me a bit and upset me, but that's nothing to do with me. It's to do with my personal life, because I definitely put myself to be in a very vulnerable position when I speak, because I go into a lot of my very personal issues. But yeah, I'm fucking loving it. I'm really enjoying the Twitch grind. People say that it tires them out. It has tired me out, but at the same time, it's energized me. It's given me a drive to do something, and it's also kind of like, it's starting from scratch again. I fucking love the sensation of doing that.
Wait, how long you been doing this for? How long? A week?
A week.
Man, we got to revisit. Listen, oh my God, I wish I could remember to clip this out right here, because we have to revisit this exact same, that sentence. We just got to revisit this in about like 2 months, something like that. And then I want you to let me know how you feel. Then you sound like, Doug. I was like, oh my God, it's like, this is because it's cool. This is fun. And then like 3 months later, he's like, all right, I'm ready to kill myself. You know what I'm saying? But
no, I appreciate. I might be in the sweet romantic stage, but I don't know, man. Every time I get tired, I just go out, sit in a park, meditate, and I'm just energized again. I'm not the kind of person to usually let my surroundings dictate how I feel. By the way, just a quick mention to the dude that was all like, I got chronic fatigue syndrome. There's a huge correlation between chronic fatigue syndrome and gluten intolerance. So have you tried giving up gluten? And answer yourself, but don't ask me, because I'm not reading the chats. But just anyways, had to mention that.
Yeah, I know gluten-free is it seems like gluten-free is a more of a popular idea I hear from my European friends than my American friends. I don't know many Americans who are into the whole non-gluten thing, but I don't know much about that.
It's super legit. How into health and diet and exercise? I mean, you're obviously into exercise and like meditation, shit like that. Are you into?
7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Where's the 3?
The 3 probably comes from, I mean, I'm into diet, but it's like not like something I'm really practicing consistently. I think my diet's good, but it could be better. Like I could just be a little more cleaner. My snacks could be better. I could stop eating so much late at night. And I think
so you're like a 7 out of 10 for America. Batting an even 5 for the world.
Probably like 5 out of 10. Yeah, I know I could be a lot. I mean, I could be a lot better. I could put a lot more effort into it. I could put a lot more, I guess, learning into it and trying to get better at it. Yeah, for sure. I was never really raised that way.
I was actually thinking about that today whilst I was on the tube. I was thinking about all of the the things in a romantic relationship that would kind of just put me off a person. And one of them, like one of the top ones that I thought of, is that if they're not trying to be healthy. I used to be able to put up with it. I used to be fine with it, but now I just cannot stand that shit. Because if you're trying to be healthy and trying to get in all these like energetic, positive mindsets, and the other person's like, oh, we could just get some chips. You're just, it just like kills it. It kills the reverberation of making good choices.
Well, then, so you just said something about you not being impacted by your surroundings so do you feel like that's something different? That's.
Oh yeah, no, I'm for sure not like a Zen monk or anything. Like, I definitely still get impacted by stuff. It's just that when I choose to put myself, I guess I misspoke before. When I choose to put myself in a situation, it will be a situation that I can always recharge from. I mean, maybe that won't be true in the future, but at the moment that seems to be the case.
Are the people that you've been dating, are they the kind of people that would say like, oh, I want to get some chips, when you're saying like, I'm trying to never eat chips again? Like, is that the kind of people you're encountering, you feel like?
There was one Brazilian girl that did that. Shout out to Yana. But I mean, we weren't together for too long, so it checks out. I've only been dating one person though for the last however many, maybe like a year and a bit now. And before that, I was polyamorous. So it's a nice step down to go to monogamy. Did you ever consider polyamory?
Shout out Sasha. She's currently in the chat right now. I'm currently not considering polyamory. I've thought about it, obviously, because I know a lot of friends that are into it, and it's been a big conversational topic, I feel like, amongst people that I know. And also it seems like it's something that is maybe catching on more in the world, and maybe it's more in line with me. But I mean, I don't know. It's something I could be open to, but at the same time, I think if I meet somebody who I really like, somebody who's great, and somebody who's not interested in that, then, I could go either way on it. It's not something I feel like I have to do, or something I don't feel like I don't want to do.
Yeah, I used to be super game for polyamory, and I thought it was kind of like the level up of relationships, because like if you can handle your shit, if you don't get jealous, if you can be happy for the person you love to be with someone else, I thought, well, you've made it. But I've actually gone in the other direction now, and it seems to me that even though polyamory can work, it seems to be pretty dysfunctional. You don't get to squeeze as much out of the unique relationship in monogamy as you do. You don't get to do it as much in polyamory as you do monogamy.
What did the Brazilian girl that enjoyed the chips? By the way, they really, if you guys don't know about Brazilian women, they really enjoy soda. They really enjoy chips. They don't really necessarily speak that much English, or well English. It seems like across the board. Obviously, is going to be there's going to be cases where that's not true, but just kind of know what to expect when you go into meeting a Brazilian girl.
That was actually a huge thing in that relationship. We had like a 95% compatible linguistic thing going on, but there was that 5% of things that I said that she didn't understand, and that 5% is where all of the nuance of someone's personality comes out, and I just couldn't. Like, she wouldn't laugh at my hilarious jokes, and I feel like those things can be worked through if the person who doesn't understand what you're saying says, oh, sorry, I don't understand that, can you repeat that? But we didn't have that luxury. Have you ever dated cross borders and cross languages?
Very, very tilting, Charlie. Very tilting. As somebody who likes to express myself through words, and one of the things I value the most is conversation, and just, me speaking and having the person be able to understand me or take something away from it. Yeah, I feel like, especially the Brazilian women, it's hard to date them because they don't understand what you're saying, and like they're like, what? What do you say? I'm like, okay, calm down. What are you saying? Okay, calm down. So
it feels like you're just banging like one person that's been in your life.
No, this is. I've been in the lab. I mean, sample size we could say for that situation, but no, I was in the lab in my lifetime. Before I met the woman of my dreams, Charlie, I was in the lab. And
you've met the woman of your dreams?
I should have said that. Maybe we'll see.
Damn. Okay. Does she know that she's the woman of your dreams?
She knows it for sure.
Oh, cool. So I'm genuinely curious how you've changed since the last time I spoke, because I used to follow all your podcasts, but I've been super busy over the last year or so, and it was fun watching your progression. And I was really, really curious about how you're going to change after you spoke to this person, and it actually, I said this in my Twitch actually yesterday when I was speaking about being on the podcast, or the day before. I used to think that you were so curious about what everyone had to say that and you saw the good in everyone, and you kind of just like took it all in, And that left you with just way too many different sides of you and different parts of you. And I feel like we weren't quite seeing the real Joey Ingram. But recently, when I've seen you speak and you get passionate about something and you're not just like standing on the fence, you really come into your own, like you blossom. You know, do you think that's accurate?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's a very nice assessment that you made from your end, because yeah, I feel like when I started doing the podcast, like all I knew was poker. That was all I was interested in. That's all I wanted to talk. That's all I wanted the friends around me. That's all that everything on my mind was just poker, because that was the world I was consumed in for, I mean, I don't know, 7 or 8 years straight for the most part. And then once I started doing the podcast, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Like I have LaForte on, he's talking about diet. I have, Bill Perkins on, he's talking about literally everything in the entire world. And you have all these different guests on who are great at poker, but also very interested in a number of different things out there. And you sort of, I feel like I was just learning so much, and still am. That's one of the coolest things about the podcast, is you just learn so much, and which is kind of good and bad, because like it kind of pulls me in so many directions of things I'm interested in, to where before I'm like, well, it's easy to get good at something, I just focus on that. And now it's like, well, I want to focus on this, that. And I think you're right in that, what I've been expressing myself in the past, maybe this year, I think I have started to form some beliefs in me that I really, I guess when I started the podcast, I didn't necessarily believe in that many things that were outside of poker. And I was pretty indifferent about a lot of things, which is why I've always stood in the middle or on the fence, because I just didn't have a passionate stance on a lot of these things, unless it was like Putnam in Omaha, or was getting good at poker, or making it at poker. Like those things I feel very strongly about. So if we're talking PLO, like I'm going to get fired up, but like how many people am I really talking Putnam in Omaha with? Not many. But yeah, so I've noticed that in this year, that certainly seems to be the case, where I'm kind of like coming into here, I'm thinking more about things like that. And it's good and bad, because I feel like it hinders my ability to focus on one or two things, because there's just so many things to put in. And I think that's the only downside of it so far.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to go into the extremes when you're of like one or two things, when you're so interested in so many things. But I mean, like a huge upside to that is that you're going to be learning so much about your real self now, and then you'll share your real self out to real people. You have deeper connections with those people. They'll know the real you, so the feedback you get will be more accurate to your own reality, and then it just kind of exponentially increases like that, instead of just hiding behind the charade of Chicago puppy shouting about stuff and being super charismatic. And yeah, it's awesome to see you just like going to yourself. The similar as fuck things happened to me recently as well.
Well, it's I guess it's interesting you say that, because I've been thinking about that too, is like, what is my real self, or what is my who am I as a person, kind of thing like that. And I think that I just turned off my mind thinking about that for so long, and I was so obsessed with poker, and poker was my escape from having to deal with these sort of issues or these sort of thoughts or ideas. And the less time I spend on playing poker, or the more time I spend sort of sitting around thinking or learning or reading or watching, I start to actually understand who I am as a person, or what I'm about. And I mean, it's not like the most comfortable thing a lot of times, because there's a lot of thoughts that you never think about that make you uncomfortable. But yeah, I think that's kind of, I don't know, I guess, how do you think it applies to yourself? Like, where do you think that you've changed, or what do you think you've realized about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, but before I answer that, I just want to just hop on that a bit and say you are maybe one of the most prime examples of what I speak about a lot in Twitch, where I always say that if the people who are getting into poker, they want to be a professional poker player, they want to get to the top, they want to grind through the micros, the smalls, the mid, the high stakes, they need to be the people that throw themselves so fucking hard. They need to go ham. They need to eat, breathe, sleep poker. And they need to like lose their social life, lose everything else that isn't additional to poker. Anything that's subtractive needs to go. And I say this to my students as well. I'm just like, I'll teach you, but you have to put in like 10 to 15 hours a day kind of thing. You did that, and then you made it, and now you have the time to stop and find that balance again. And it's that like short-term versus long-term EV thing, where a lot of people, they're like, oh, I just want to be comfortable, I want to be happy, I want to go out with my friends and drink, or I want to socialize, I don't want to lose this friend or this friend. But like, if you can do that for 3 or 4 years of your life and become successful enough at poker that you can then have the rest of your life of freedom, you fucking made the right choice,
Yeah, I mean, that was certainly my, well, I guess not certainly, but that was always my thought process when I was playing poker, was that, okay, I'm going to work my ass off every single day. My life's going to be all about poker for a certain amount of years. And then at that point, I'll be able to do anything I want to do in the entire world. And that was like, I just told myself that all the time. And now I kind of look back and say, was that, should I have had more balance? Because now it's like I'm trying to regain the balance, and I don't even know what the fuck that means. You know, I'm trying to be a better friend.
Don't be balanced, man. It's a trap.
I don't even know what that means.
Fuck GTO, man.
I'm not sure. Like, what is it? I don't even know how to like start caring more about these other things, but then not care as much about, I guess, traditional success or what success is to me growing up. Like, I'm not even sure how to frame that in my mind right now. And that's currently the position I'm in, saying, okay, how much do I care about building a brand, or how much do I care about getting out there to more people? And how much do I care about being a good friend? And how much more do I care about learning these different things? So I think that's where my challenge is right now, is to just, okay, how do I want to allocate this in my mind? And
yeah, it's real interesting, the progression that one goes through is from not a poker player to a poker player to a successful poker player to kind of near retirement or doing other stuff. The goals that you set are so different, but like when you're in the midst of poker, you need to be in the mindset of like, I want to be the fucking best, or I want to make the most fucking money I can. Because if not, if that energy slips just even a tiny bit, and you're not like, I want to grind super hard, I want to play the best I can, then as soon as that focus goes, then you suddenly just swerving off into other directions, and you can't reach the point unless you 100% want it. And it's kind of one of those things where, you know, people speak about like positive thinking and law of attraction and shit like that, setting your intentions into the universe. It sounds like hippie woo-woo shit, but if you actually like dig deep into the psychology of it, people that set their mind, think positively, I'm gonna reach this fucking point to the extreme, they're so much more likely to get it than the people who aren't.
Yeah, I wonder, I guess I this is the same way I've always thought about poker, is to get that successful at poker, like you need to be all in, committed, have that approach to it. But I think some people that I've talked to maybe would disagree with that. They would say that for them, they couldn't become successful at poker with that approach. They could only become successful at it with a life balance, because they just need that happiness outside of their life, outside of their poker life. And I've never thought that, like I've never looked at it like that. And that's what they say. And I can't really relate to it, because, you know, I just believe like to become great at it as a general, I would tell someone to consume themselves with it and sacrifice things in their life for some period of time to focus on poker. But I guess some people say they couldn't be successful that way. So it's kind of like, well, what's the way that you believe in. And for me, it's very similar to what you say. Like, that's what I always tell people if they're wondering how to get better. It's like, you got to be pretty all in, man. You got to say no to going to the bar or going to the strip club with your friends, or going out with a bunch of different people. Like, you got to
America.
Is there not over there? Is this not the bar and the strip club there, or what?
Actually, the only strip club I've ever been in is in England. And I'll tell a story briefly. I got invited to one of the private games I used to play in London, and I wanted to kind of like impress the dude that was running the private game. So I was like, yo, let's meet up for dinner. He's like, actually, tonight I'm going to go to a strip club. And it's like one of the most fancy strip clubs in London. So I got a group of like 5 or 6 of my friends, make sure it was like an even mix of guys and girls, so it wasn't weird in either direction. And then turned up at the strip club, and it was the fucking weirdest experience of my life. I do not understand how Americans, like, shout out to the people that do, I don't judge it, I just do not understand it whatsoever, how people can go and just watch something really sexually provocative while sitting next to their best friends who they have zero sexual connection with. It's so strange. Actually, I didn't get a lap dance or anything. I ended up getting a massage, and I just got into like a 30-minute debate from the masseuse, because I was really curious about it. I was like, so what percentage do you think guys are here for you, being, because she was really skimpily dressed? What percentage do you think guys are here for that, and what percentage do you think guys are here for the massage? And she was like 100% the massage. I was like, we're gonna have a disagreement here, madam. And yeah, she got pretty heated whilst giving me one of the hardest massages I've ever had in my life.
This is a unique story. I've heard about people taking out their dick in the back room and getting kicked out, but I haven't heard about somebody going to the strip club and getting in a 30-minute debate with the massage therapist there. I don't think we have massage therapists at the clubs here, unless I'm going to the wrong clubs. I don't know if this is a thing, but also I think a lot of guys in America, they go as what I've noticed is like a social thing. So it's like, you know, you're with a group of guys, where do you guys want to go? Let's go here, let's hang out. And I think that's from what I've experienced over these past couple of years in Vegas. It seems like it's more of just like a place to go kick it than it is a place to go. And obviously not all guys view it that way. You know, I know a lot of degenerates in poker who go there because they want to try to fuck the strippers, or they like naked girls or whatever. There's a number of different reasons they go there, but
yeah. No, I mean, super cool. And I'm not judging it at all. I'm sure I'd probably learn to enjoy it if I was in the culture myself. It's just sexuality is a weird one, man. Do you ever try and contain your sexuality or choose like, oh, I don't want to do this? Do you ever think, oh, I don't want to watch porn, I'm going to stop watching porn, or I don't want to be sexualizing other women. I just want to have my one love of my life in my head whilst I'm fapping.
For sure. All the time. I think, yeah, definitely. I think about those things a lot. Yeah.
Where have you got to on it? Ever gone for a no porn spree?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I had a prop bet where I couldn't watch porn or masturbate for a long time. One of the best time stretches of my life. And yeah, I mean, I think it's something now where I certainly want to spend less time on my phone or less time kind of thinking about those things, doing things like that. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I need another prop bet or something like that, because I think it's challenging to figure out how to start approaching it like that, how to start getting your mind to that point. And I guess, yeah, that's
it's tough, man. It's tough. Sex is one of the hardest things to like contain as a guy, especially. It's just like an out of control hose. You're just trying to chill out. But anyway, going back to the question you said, how I've changed over the last year or two. I would say that the main thing that I've been trying to do has been, actually, I'll go through the progression. So when I first got into poker, I was an emotionless motherfucker. You wouldn't have guessed it by looking at me, but I had zero emotion. I was very, very high up on the sociopathic scale. I was manipulative. I cheated on people. I lied all the time. And that, even though it was really bad that I did it, it's real shitty stuff, and I wouldn't do any of that anymore. I'm really glad that I went through that, because I don't know, there's something about being able to face the darkest sides of yourself that you get to learn things about yourself that other people who haven't done those things don't get to learn. So after that, I was in poker. My ego was kind of like, I was trying to keep it under control, because it's such like a classical thing, like a classic thing of saying, oh, he's a successful poker player, he's got a big ego. So I tried to like quash that pretty hard, and I think I did an okay job. And then over the last like 2 years, my emotions have slowly been seeping back into me. I've been dealing with all of the trauma I had in my past, had some recent more trauma as well, but I've been having like good relationships, honest relationships, compassionate relationships. And now I'm a lot more of an emotional person. And I went through a phase of being too emotional. So like, you have to go from one imperfection to another before you can kind of reach a nice middle. But I'm now quite a lot more in control of that, and really feeling myself out where I'm at, feeling a lot more confident in myself, more confident I ever have been with everything, with my personality, with even like something as simple as my face. Have you ever had like serious insecurities about your physicality?
Not really. I don't think so. No.
All right. Too good looking, man. Get the fuck out of here. Shout out in the chat. He's too good looking.
I never really thought about that growing up. When I grew up, I always played sports. I was always like, I'm tall. I was in shape. Like I sort of probably just took it for granted. I think when I was growing up, I just, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then I think once I started working out, because I was always a really skinny kid, like my little brother, shout out to Andrew Cool, aka Big Dog, aka Yardstick. But yeah, I was always very, very just skinny but athletic. And then I started working out, and I just always got obsessed with working out. And yeah, no, I never really had I don't know, if I always had an issue, I just tried to fix it. Like if I didn't like my hair, I always did crazy things to my hair. I don't know. I like had ignorant self-confidence, I think, growing up. And when I look back at it, I'm like, oh my, I don't even know how I had that mindset, because I don't know where it came from. But yeah, I was just like ignorant I'd wear tight t-shirts. I had long blonde hair. I was like fucking nice, jacked up like this, walking around with tight t-shirts on, like I'm the man kind of thing. Like that's sort of how I thought. I don't think I necessarily like, talked like that to other people, but I just always had a self-confidence about myself. And yeah, I don't know. I always realized like, sure, there's going to be better looking people than you, or there's going to be uglier, or there's going to be better in shape, or there's always going to be someone out there who you could find yourself wanting more of. But it never really concerned me, or it didn't really impact me. I thought I could still meet people. I still had plenty of friends. I still had plenty of people that I met that I could get to know. So yeah, I guess I never really had, I never really thought that way, I suppose.
Yeah. That will still present itself with unique challenges to the person who goes through that. Like that has its downsides as well, that you didn't. So for instance, all right, I'll tell you a story about me in school. I used to be very, very, very conventionally unattractive. And there was a moment, I kind of knew it, but I was a little autistic kid, like diagnosed Asperger's, super, super bad. And I never really came to terms with it until this moment where I was in school, and the girls in class, I think we were in grade 6, something like that. Maybe grade 7. They were writing a list of all the guys in the class from top to bottom of attractiveness to least attractiveness. And I mean, like, it's the shit you do. I mean, guys always rate girls, and yeah, they were rating guys, and it's like they were just having fun with their new hormones and whatever. So it's chill. But I found myself at the stone bottom, and yeah, I know, brutal, right? And it didn't bother me too much until I kind of processed it, and I was like, this is one of the reasons why I don't get any romantic attention from people. I don't have many friends. People don't really like to hang out with me. And I looked at all of the more attractive people who are at the top of the list, and they're all popular. They didn't have like discernibly amazing personalities, but they were just always around people that are having a great time in school, whereas I was getting bullied, I was getting shat on, not literally. And it was really tough, but I'm so glad that it happened like that, because it really forced me to pay attention to my personality. And that's where kind of like part of the sociopathic thing came on, because I had to create my own persona to make other people like me. And it's left me with loads of repercussions. Like I love asking questions, because I realized when I was young, like one of the ways to make people like you is ask questions about them. And that kind of matched up with my natural curiosity. And I don't know, I think I wouldn't have had anywhere near as many social skills, especially because I was autistic, if I was like an attractive autistic person as a kid.
Interesting. I mean, yeah, people didn't know that, asking questions. So here's a couple just quick tips for people, then I'm gonna follow up with that. But if you want to get people to like you, you smile and nod, you ask questions, you don't disagree with what they say. And I'm just telling you, this is how you do it. Because I went through a period where I was like, how do you make friends? Because I was, a bunch of years ago. And that's what I did. I was like, I danced, I smiled and nodded, and I just asked questions. And, that was it. People love that. It turns out they really like that. I mean, yeah.
I might push back on that and say that is definitely the way to make superficial friends.
I'm not saying it's going to be close friends. I'm saying you make friends this way. Yeah.
But I just want to like give a balance to that, so people just don't go out and do that just because they want to meet like the love of their life. If you smile and nod without meaning it, people are going to eventually pick up on that. And if you're just like not disagreeing with them about anything they say, there are some people that are going to be loving that, and their egos will just, grow and grow and grow. But there'll be such a weird power dynamic between them if they're disagreeing with you and you're not disagreeing with them. So I would say that the best thing that one could do to find the deepest relationships is to disagree with what people say. Be discerning, be critical, but not judgmental. Be like, I appreciate where you're coming from. I really like how you did this, but here is where I would disagree with that. But if you want to just go out and make like 1 billion friends, I'm not the person to listen to. Joey's gone to that extreme.
No, this was something because I remember I was in Spain with a group of people, and then one of the girls in the group was like, you're kind of an asshole. And I was like, oh my God, I never thought I was an asshole. I never considered myself that. And I was like, I thought more about it at the time. I was like, oh, maybe I'm kind of an asshole. I guess that makes like, I didn't even know. I didn't think about it. I was just like, oh, I guess I am. I was so like obsessed with it was like poker 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 12. And then, like everyone else was after that. So poker was on my mind all the time. And then, everything else came after that. So I started thinking, I was like, oh my God, okay, maybe I am. And I was like, okay, well then how can I go make friends? Okay. I was like, all right, well, what do I have to do? And how would I go upon doing that? And I was like, well, I think people I was always positive. I was always happy. I was always upbeat. I'm like, well, I can just be those parts of myself instead of being the mean parts or like thinking thoughts about people like the judgmental side. I was like, well, I just won't do that anymore. I'll just sort of bring out the side of me that's normally me anyway, where I'm pretty positive. I'm upbeat. I'm usually happy. I'm usually smiling. I love dancing. So I just tried to focus on those things. And then I found, I was like, oh, people, they really enjoy those kind of things around them. And it was probably just because I wasn't being a judgmental type of person, or I wasn't having those thoughts or making sort of comments like that. And maybe it was more of those things than these other things. But I guess to me, when I think back on it, I think about those were the things I tried to put more effort into and just accentuate those parts of my podcast or those parts of my personality. And I think that's what kind of makes for a good podcast too. And then sort of thinking about, what did, there was like one more thing you said in there, but I'm struggling to remember what it was.
I could jump in if you want. So yeah. That's like super, super legit that you managed to just like snap into that so quickly. It's so hard for other people generally to just switch off the judgmental. And that's one of the things I usually speak about loads in the Twitch stream that I do, is that, hey, we don't judge those who are judgmental, but we're not gonna silence them. We're not gonna stop them from talking and saying negative, judgmental things. But at the same time, I would ask, and to anyone that watches this and listens to this, are you the kind of person that ever says negative things about other people? Are you the kind of person that might leave a negative comment on YouTube or on Twitch? Are you the kind of person that might laugh at someone behind their back and be like, that guy, look at the way he's got his hair today? Because I would then ask you to just momentarily put the spotlight back on you and say, why do I feel like I need to do that? What is it in me that wants to spread negativity? Because one of the, like, if I could give everyone in the world one bit of advice, it would be just be fucking positive. Like, it's hard, sometimes it's difficult, sometimes you're going to be negative, doesn't matter if you fuck up, but like, have the goal in sight to be positive. Because if you're positive, that makes everything else positive. It creates all of these ripples around you where you're kind, you're compassionate, you're empathetic, and all of these people notice things, you get it back, they start doing these things, that strengthens that. And it's like almost like a karmic thing, but in a mathematical, rational sense, where you do good things and it comes back to you in ways you could not even imagine. And all of these little things that you do, you say something nice, you let someone, I don't know, go in front of you, they leave positive imprints inside of you, which then release outwards into other people. And the exact same thing happens with negativity. And if you're the kind of person to be like, yeah, it's just a joke, it doesn't matter, we like fucking around, we like spreading shit on YouTube, we like getting into it with D-Neg saying Morik is better, that kind of stuff, that is going to be creating so much negativity inside you, inside the people that you speak to, and that just spreads out and ripples. So like, if there's one thing I would ask people to do, is like, be introspective about why you're either positive or negative, and decide what is the kind of person I want to be. Do I want to be a positive person where everyone starts liking me, starts enjoying being around me, is energized by me? Or do I want to be that huge negatron that is just going to be like bringing everyone down to my level of subdued annoyance?
So how do you think people who are stuck in that mindset where they don't think that way, how do you think what do you think something they can do right now that would help them improve the situation that they're in, or the point that they're at?
So we're speaking to poker players. So take that critical analysis that you hopefully use for your poker game and just turn it inwards. Take it off the felt and just be like, hey, every single time I think or do or say something negative, and start with actions, then go to words, and then go to thoughts. Like, that's the easiest way around. It's easiest to fix your actions than your words and your thoughts. I've not had this thought before, so I'm not 100% on that, but it seems to be that way. And just criticize yourself. Be like, why did I do that? Why did I say that? And why am I thinking this? And I'm still not 100% there. I still have negative thoughts about people, and I still get the urge sometimes just to like rip into someone if they're being a complete dickhead. But it's definitely a journey, and I'm in the positive trajectory at least.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about this lately, because a lot of the content and a lot of the things you read out there about being positive all the time and never feeling negative emotion or anything like that. And I think that might be harmful for some people out there to hear all the time, because I think a lot of people, it's normal to have negative thoughts about yourself or about others or about a situation. And I think that people are like bombarded by a lot of these people about, oh, you got to be positive, you got to be this, you got to be that. And they probably feel pretty bad about themselves because they can't get to that point. They don't know how to get to that point, but all they're being taken in is people telling them they got to be like this and be like that when they're not like that. And I've been kind of trying to figure out exactly how I don't know what I think about that, because that's what I've been noticing on the internet. Maybe it's just the things I follow and the content I consume. It just seems to be all relatively like, if you're not positive, you're shit. If you're this, you think this, if you judge someone, you're this. It's like, oh my God. Okay. Like, wow. All right. Am I awful because I'm not positive 24/7 like this guy presents himself to be on Twitter or on social media?
Yeah, Dan, that's super, super true. And I think that's a really, really good point. And I would say be skeptical of people that tell you that you have to be something. Instead, I try to lean towards saying like, here's why I do this. And like, I ask people to think about it themselves. But if you want to be the kind of person that just trolls for your whole life, I've still got love for you. I just have love for you from a distance,
Lou Clan says, can you ask Charlie about the last time he was very angry and how he handled it?
I've only actually, I wanted to make sure something else people are saying in the comment, being like, oh, it's so soft and bad. Like, people always equate like kindness and positivity with naivety. You do not need to be a soft ass if you do not need to be a soft ass if you're a kind and positive person. You can be hard as fucking nails. Like, you could be the kind of person that someone kills your best friend and you're still going to take it on the chin and be like, that hurts, but like, I'm going to deal with it. I'm still going to think positively. Or you could be naive if you're super kind. And that's just like, you can't equate those two. It's a false equivalence. The anger thing, in my life, I've been such a non-angry person. It's really, I just like fortunate, really, really fortunate. The last time I got angry though was probably like 6 or 7 months ago. And this can probably broach into another subject. I was in a very, very abusive relationship where I was the abused and someone else was abusing me. And this person, I never lashed out at them. I never fought back. Like, it was physical abuse. It was mental abuse, emotional abuse. And I definitely had the potential. I could have just, flattened her, like physically, mentally, emotionally, but I never once did. But she pushed me to my very utmost limits of keeping calm. And I'd usually just sit there either crying or just like internalize it. And my emotions would just be off completely. But this time she managed, like, she knew every single one of my insecurities inside out. And she was very, very smart. And she's very good at getting inside. She's not like that anymore. Shout out to, I'll say her name in a bit, but she's nothing like that anymore. She's the kindest person. And it is definitely something that was built up inside of her from her childhood abuse. But it was fucking the toughest thing I've ever been through that maybe year of my life, but especially the last few months. And I was sitting here on the sofa and she was saying stuff at me, saying, hey, this side of you, which she knows I'm really insecure about, is terrible, it's shit, you're worthless, you're this, you're that. And she went off to go do something in the bedroom. And all I did is I got up and I was so full with this new feeling, which I guess was kind of like anger, kind of like frustration. I punched my fridge 3 times and that was fucking it. And I was like, that was dumb, and kind of just laughed a bit. And there's 3 dents in the fridge. But generally, if I start feeling myself getting frustrated, I've got a lot of meditation techniques that I've learned recently. So I just sent to myself, go back to my breathing and let out the negative energy through the floor, out of my body and back where it's meant to be.
So if you feel this sort of sensation coming up, you have a breathing exercise you go to? Do you have one go-to thing that you like to do?
I've got a few. That my favorite one, I think, is I've been learning quite a lot about the Inca people, one of like the really ancient tribes that still exist, which not many people know. They were kind of around the South America place before the Spanish came and just killed them all. They have a really, really specific way of meditating where you start. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it now because it will sound super pseudo-scientific, but I'll probably make a YouTube video on it at some point, and or I might put it on the site that I'm making, which I haven't told you about. I'm making a site.
Who doesn't have a site these days, Charlie? Everyone's got a product right now. It makes sense.
Yeah, exactly right. You got to join the bandwagon, but it's going to be a sick site. It's going to be. It was initially just going to start as a training site, but I realized that a lot of what people need right now, as well as good poker information for the micro stakes, which does not exist right now.
Bang bang.
Bang bang. They also need. I feel like people at the beginning of their career, especially when they're younger, they need direction on how to live their life to support a poker lifestyle, and that involves diet, that involves maybe selectively finding some microdosing of sorts, or
I'm in. Sign me up.
Yeah,
I'm in. Let's do it.
And it involves meditating, involves exercise, involves diet, involves being in a certain mindset, thinking about things in a certain way. And there are so many little things that I think people really fucking underestimate. That is just, I believe, can help people incredibly. And I've already had, just on the week that I've done Twitch, I've had so many messages from people saying like, oh, I was really struggling with poker and I was playing for like 2 years, but now I've finally got up to the point where I'm crushing 5-0 over like 10,000 hands and I'm thinking really positively. I've quit smoking weed every day, shit like that. And I fucking love getting those messages, man. And that is a large incentive for me to start this website. I'm not doing it for money, by the way. Like the money I make will probably not be super relevant. It's actually more to do with, it's partly to do with giving back to the poker community, but mainly I'd say to do with developing myself in a way that is going to be good for the charity that I'm making. Have I told you about the charity?
Listen, I don't know. We got a lot of things lined up here. Hold on.
Got a lot of things.
What's the charity about?
So, oh my God, it's such a long one. So the charity, it's called Abundance, and it's going to be my life. It's why I retired from poker. It is going to be a world-changing charity, and I mean this with absolute sincerity. It is based on blockchain technology. It's based on blockchain, for anyone who doesn't know, is cryptocurrency. It's based on vertical indoor farming. There's a huge app that we're going to be developing. We're going to be tackling the homeless crisis. We're going to be tackling health crisis. We're going to be tackling factory farming. We're going to be tackling so much more than that in the future. But it is going to be fucking insane, and it's going to be starting next year, early next year. So I could go into way more detail than that, and I actually do in my I went on a video. Shout out to my YouTube. It explains just like the outline sculpture of it, but it is the reason that I've retired from poker, and I really, really am ready to dedicate my life to it.
So you got a lot of things. How does it all sort of fit in your mind in terms of starting a website or a training site, and then working on the charity? How do you feel like you're going to be able to, I guess, tackle that in your life and kind of do all these things that you want to do?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I feel like the reason that the reason I started streaming was because I really wanted to work on my communication skills. Apart from the fact I wanted to do a bankroll challenge, because I thought that, you know, the other content out there is kind of not good for people. I think it's very detrimental for people. We'll get into that later, I'm sure.
Hold on, let me write that. I agree with that actually, but go ahead, keep going.
Okay, cool. Oh, that was a very quiet bang bang from you. So, and it really has worked as if anyone got that, I mean, it's hard to clip, so it's fine.
There's no change in my voice. It's very subtle.
Yeah, I mean, I probably agree with that. And on to the next question. Yeah. So over the last week, the way that I communicate in front of camera has changed so dramatically. And actually, I was thinking about this yesterday. I think a large portion of the persona that comes out when I'm on Twitch, and it isn't forced, it isn't not me, but I think part of it has come from you. Because the way that I'm speaking sometimes, when I'm like, fuck GTO, get your fuck GTOs out in the chat, GTO has got to go. That genuinely, I feel like I'm channeling my inner Joey. Because like you and maybe Evan from Grips are people that I really look up to in the way that you communicate on camera. And that's kind of what you do when you subconsciously want to have characteristics of someone else, and Doug as well. You kind of want to integrate them into your own personality. And I hats off to you, sir. You're an inspiration to many. Me included.
Well, thank you. I mean, I'm happy to inspire one of those things. Yeah, I don't know where it comes from. I think that's why I started doing content, was because I sort of I've always felt that fire, and that's why I got good at poker. I'm insane. Like I just felt this fire all the time for fucking poker, and I think it comes out when I talk about certain things on the podcast. And also, you sort of realize like that's what makes. I think that's what makes for me personally, that's what makes a good broadcast. That's what makes a good show, or that's what makes something that I think I want people to get fired up when they listen to me. I don't want people to get, even though it's not always been the case this year with some of my videos, but in the past, I want them to be fired up. I want you to come there, get excited, get ready to go, get ready to get after it. Whereas I think a lot of content out there, it's a little bit more subdued and people are quieter for, you know, a number of different reasons. But I always sort of wanted to be the opposite of that, because I thought that's what I think people would enjoy. And yeah, I kind of wanted to bring people up rather than bring people down.
And that's super legit, because there's something so powerful behind being a good communicator. It's part of being a good teacher. And if people really care about wanting to get the information that they have in their minds out to other people, then they have to learn and focus on how to communicate it efficiently. Because otherwise, like, who's going to listen? Like there are so many good coaches out there, like on Run It Once and stuff, that I'm like, oh my God, there's a fucking gold mine. And then I'm just asleep 10 minutes in, and I'll try and watch it back, and the same will happen. But I can watch like Doug's videos or your videos like all day, every day if I wanted.
Yeah, I'm sure it's probably opposite for other people too, where they might watch Doug or watch myself or watch something like that, and they say, oh, that doesn't connect with me. But then they watch these people that might put others to sleep, and they take a lot away from those people too. And I guess, you know, it's sort of the challenge for you as someone trying to get better at poker, is to figure out what type of content you connect with. Or, I mean, there's so much fucking content out there that I mean, there's a lot of good stuff out there. I'm sure there's some stuff that's not good out there. I don't think I know where to start necessarily if I was trying to learn poker these days. I think there's just so many products and sites and courses and everything out there. So that's sort of the challenge, I feel like. But at the same time, there is a lot of, actually, I don't know. I don't want to say that. I would say there's a lot of good content out there, but I don't personally know that. I'm not learning Nolan Hold'em. I don't know if the content's that good. But I think for learning Pop in Omaha out there, I mean, I think there is some really good PLO content. So. Yeah.
So I guess we're kind of just like dancing around a subject that I'm going to address anyway. So I'm just going to do it now. And I don't want this to sound like I'm shitting on Doug, because I really fucking love Doug. Like,
Charlie, I'm gonna let you give a shout out. I gotta pee out of my mind. I was gonna use the bottle for one of the first times on the podcast.
Oh my God. I appreciate it.
Well, no, listen, be an honor if I bless into you with the fucking bottle near me, but that would be an honor to bestow on someone if I actually did that.
Yeah,
but I'm gonna have you talk. I'm gonna run to my bathroom and hear that, because this is something I really want to. I feel like this is a subject that'll get me fired up, and this sort of topic, because I feel a lot of thoughts on there that a lot of people don't discuss, and I think that you're going to discuss some of them. So
yeah, all right. I'll run about something else then, I guess. Guys, tell me in the chat what I should run about. Ask a question.
The chat wants to know, what does he think of the state of online cash games?
Yeah. All right. Ask another question. How has autism helped? That's a good question, but I don't think too many people find it that interesting. I'll find a good one. It's fine.
Okay.
Is Charlie vegan? Yo, what do you guys think about veganism? Because my site will be super cheap, by the way, because I used to be vegan, and the reason that I stopped being vegan was actually an ethical reason. It was an ethical decision, which when I tell vegans that, which is very rarely, because I try not to get into too many arguments about it, it's very surprising to them. But I think that there is something to be said about indulging in the way that we're meant to indulge, the way that we've evolved to be. And I know that some like hardcore vegans will disagree with me, but the way we're evolved to be is to eat meat. And if you want to be the kindest, most positive, best for the world, most giving to the world person you can possibly be, you have to be healthy, and you have to be eating the nutrition that we were evolved to eat. And shout out to fucking vegans. I love them. Like, I love how intense they go for something they really believe in. I do not like it when people are like, oh, veganism, stam, bam, bam. But at the same time, like, every single good nutritionist I've spoken to is like, vegan's not good for you. Like, and it's very easy for the vegans to be so intensely involved in their arguments to just like pick and choose little studies, be like, oh, it increases this or it does this. But it's just not the case. Like, there's a reason that all vegans have to supplement, otherwise they're going to lose their shit. You know, there's a reason that it just like disintegrates your muscle mass. Like, all of this shit is because we're not evolved to do that. Anyway, back to non-vegan topics.
Shout out to the vegans out there. Listen, I don't want to tell Negreanu what you just said. He's gonna get fired up about that.
Fucking D-Negs, man. I love D-Negs so much, but I want to go on a rant about him at some point. Get that in the list so I don't forget.
Okay. All right, so let's get into what you were saying here about Doug.
All right, so disclaimers. I want to say that Doug is one of the most awesome people in the poker world, in my opinion. He's such a great communicator. He's really good at what he does poker-wise, and I think that he's brought in loads of traction to the poker world as well. So I don't want this to be a bang bang versus Doug. I will throw a little thing out there. When we spoke about him on your last podcast, and we were like, I went on this rant about how he shouldn't just like tell other people they're shit at poker without knowing them, because it's just like a douche move, and he's just doing it to boost his own ego. And we were like, oh, I wonder what he's going to say. He's probably going to say something. He literally didn't say a fucking word until a year and a bit later, when he posted one of his troll videos about Negreanu and just had 2 clips of me, one quoting me out, being like, I'm bad at poker or something like that, and another one saying, I fucking love WCG Ryder or something like that. And that was it. And then didn't mention it, didn't say anything. And then when I see him in Vegas, goes out of his way to be hyper friendly to me, like always fist bumping me across the corridor, when we're on the table, always making friendly chat, making jokes, which is like lovely. I love being on good terms with people, but it's a little bit of a pussy move, a tiny bit, hiding behind the 200,000 followers and just making like cracks at people every now and again. But if you can't follow through and say like, yo, or even just like say, hey, I made this, but it was just a joke, like apologies, or like, ha, yeah, I trolled you, get you, ha ha ha. But just like, whatever. Anyway, that's the one issue I got with him in the way that he like handles that kind of stuff. Anyway, but to be more critical of what he does instead of who he is, I think is where the relevance comes in. And what he does is he teaches a very specific style of poker which lacks nuance and lacks effectiveness. And I know this is me coming from an exploitative side and him coming from a GTO side, but I'm gonna argue, and I'm gonna say, using very good rationality, because it's actually kind of fucking easy argument, that his style of poker is not designed for the micro stakes, and it's not designed for beginning poker players to actually get good at poker. And an analogy that I like using, I used on the stream a few days ago, and I really like it, is that when you put kids in school and you teach them art, you teach them music, and you teach them this is how you do music. You go to chord 1, and then you go to chord 5, and then if you're really excited, you go to chord 2, and it's like, whoa, man, that's sick. You're such a smart kid for going to chord 2, and then you go back to chord 1. That kind of shit just quashes creativity. It's gonna, like, if you put Mozart through that, he'd come out like just like a slab of rock, you know? Maybe not Mozart, he's like super genius, but like if you put people that could have had the creative spark in them through that system, they're gonna come out losing everything that made them really good at what they do. And GTO is exactly the same for poker. What he does is say you need to be unbalanced, you need to be balanced, you need to be unexploitable, and you can make tiny exploitations, tiny ones, but other than that, you're just playing a guessing game. We don't believe in exploitative play. We don't believe in live tells. We don't believe in timing tells, because then you're just playing a guessing game, and that's so fucking dumb. I'm sorry, Doug, much love, but it's so dumb, because yes, we're playing a guessing game, but we're better than the other people at the guessing game. That's the point. You're meant to be playing. You're playing against like a 70-year-old on the final table of the WSOP main event. You're playing for millions of dollars, and this is genuinely something that people have in their head. They think, oh, I'll get to this turn, and I need to make sure that I don't barrel too much, because even though he's folding 95% of his range to one bet, I don't know that, because maybe he'll re-exploit me. And like, that guy doesn't know what exploit means. He doesn't know how to adjust. He's going to look at his hand and be like, oh, my second pair turned into the third pair. I fold everything. And it's just like so dumb to think, oh, I don't want to be exploitable. When's he going to exploit you? Next time you're on the final table of the WSOP fucking main event? What are you waiting for? And I have spoken to GTO players, legitimately good poker players, and they've done the same thing. They've said, we went through a hand history, super heated, but really, really fucking passionate about this, because there's so much misinformation out there, and it's stealing away people's chances of being good professional poker players. It's really taking away their ability to manifest their inner genius. And it's so bad, because not letting someone be a good poker player, teaching someone bad advice that is only going to make them like break even at the high rake micros, is taking away their livelihood. It's taking away their chance to develop as a human being. It's taking away so much from them, and just letting everyone just share the money throughout PokerStars and with rake. So I went through this hand history with a friend. I'm not going to say who it is. It was me, Ben Heath, my best friend, and this guy who was a GTO player. And he said, we're going through a hand history. Is the EPT main event 5K. And he gets to the turn, and he's like, and so we check call, and then goes off to the river like that. It's just a standard thing. And Ben and I was like, wait, what? Why are we not shoving? And he's like, well, yeah, it's that obviously, like if we don't check call, our check call range is going to be so weak. The guy who was playing against was legitimately over 65. Over 65. And in his mind, he's like, we just cannot have a weak check call range. We can't do that. And it's just so dumb. Like, this guy doesn't know how to play poker. He's just there for a laugh. He's just like, he can barely spell poker. Shout out Phil Holmes. And he is not going to be the kind of person that's going to recognize a weak check call range. And even if with some miracle he did, he's not going to be able to fucking exploit it. So by taking away that option of exploitative style, you're killing your EV of so many hands. And when you're playing 2NL, 5NL, 10NL, 16NL, 25NL, 50NL, up to 100NL, maybe not 200, if you're not doing basically 100% exploit, maybe you can balance if you're a bit unsure and you're like, oh, these players might be better than me. You learn where to balance like pre-flop, maybe some of these spots, maybe flop C-bets. But in the legit spots where it's like high equity, if you're not thinking, how do I play my hand best against their range? And how do I, like, you have to think of your perceived range, but you don't think about your own fucking range. You don't be like, oh, have I got enough hands here to check? It's irrelevant. It's fucking irrelevant. You're not going to be playing this spot against that person ever again. And even if you do, they're not going to remember it. They're not going to think, oh, last time he had a really weak check call range. And maybe next time you just go in the other direction. He tries to exploit you. And it's like, oh, what? But now I've got to exploit the other way. And it's just like, you can't say that people can just like go around this rock, paper, scissors style. It's like, it's like if you're playing rock, paper, scissors and this old guy's throwing 90% rock because he's like, I fucking love rock. And Doug would be sitting there being like, well, I'd start with a 33, 33, 33 strategy, but maybe we can push it up to 40, 20, 20 with a 40% in paper. And that would be like his maximum exploit. Like, whoa, but went a bit off the rails there. And it's just so fucking dumb. It's just like, he's not a dumb person. He's a really, really smart person. But sometimes really smart people just get lost in this little microcosm of ways of thinking. And he's just, because he wasn't successful at exploitative poker himself, his words, and he could only, 40, 20, 20, fuck, 40, 30, 30. He could only be successful using GTO poker. He's one of the rare cases of people that if I had them as a student, I would legitimately say, hey, you should try GTO. And I had that with one of my students. I said, yo, you failed miserably. I didn't say it like this, but he failed miserably, exploitative style. Maybe have one last shot at GTO. And that should be like the GTO headline. If you can't play poker exploitatively, if you can't play poker well, maybe try GTO. It's worth a shot, but you probably won't do too well because the rate's so high and you don't really have that high win rate. That's nice to get off my chest. Thank you.
Listen, I'm listening, baby. You keep talking. Hey, it's gonna make a good clip right there. You know what I mean? It's a good, because I think a lot of people are gonna share some agreements with that. And I guess kind of speaking on Doug and the way he approaches things, I think that he plays a lot more exploitative than he might discuss in his videos. But I do think that from a business standpoint, the way he teaches, and it's very hard to teach exploit. It's really hard to say, okay, well, I think you should do this because of this percentage of the time. It's hard to teach that to students. So I think that their goal with what they designed with Upswing Poker and with the lab and with kind of the content they have is they wanted to be able to teach a style to players that was something that they could teach to everyone, and that's something that was implementable by everyone. And so it kind of sounds, do you think that the style that they teach just can't be successful for some players? Or do you think that the majority of players would be more successful learning exploitative style? Because I mean, it seems like people really enjoy their product. They enjoy Doug's videos. People say they've learned a lot from Doug's videos and from Upswing Poker itself too. So it seems like there are people that are learning and benefiting from this approach to teaching, but I'm sure they would benefit from like a different approach too. But I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that?
So this is kind of the case. I'm going to draw an analogy here between this and nutrition. When people eat like shit and then they find some diet, there's almost always an improvement because these diets are better than eating like shit. And then they will swear blindly by that diet. So like there will be loads of people that will be like, I was terrible at poker and then I learned balance strategies and this kind of style. And then I got better because they will have got better from being terrible. And this is like, it's a winning style, but it's like, first of all, it's not going to be winning very much because the people out there in the 2NL streets, they're there to be exploited. They don't do certain things. They always do certain things. Like they're super stationary. You want to be betting hugely your value hands. You want to be betting small with your bluffs. In general, there are different situations for that. And I understand that it's a lot.
There, Charlie, right there. So that idea right there, I think that's why they designed the style they did, because that's hard to teach what you just said right there. Well, then, okay, so now that's how I always, when I work with people at PLO, this is what I say to them too. When you're trying to beat micro stakes and small stakes, you want to bet big with value hands and bet smaller with your bluffs. Then you say, well, then when is the time I bet bigger with my bluffs? And that is sort of what they've tried to design, is they tried to build a system that breaks those situations down and lets people know. And then from there, you can potentially deviate. So it says, okay, you might want to bluff here, but if you don't think that, then that's where you deviate. And I think that's the challenge, is teaching people what you just said is, okay, well, when do I have the value spot? When should I bet bigger? You know, and that, I think exactly. That's the big challenge in learning.
And that exact point is why I think there are so few actually good pieces of information about their out for poker. Because if you try and teach this style of exploitative, you need to be really fucking good at teaching. And that's where I genuinely feel like I'm particularly talented at, and I'm not just like being big-headed here. I did it with Ben, for instance. Ben was like not an intuitively good poker player, and he went from 10-0 to playing like 50Ks and 100Ks within just like 2 or 3 years, you know. And I've had other successes with other students, and one of the things that you need to be able to do when you're teaching exploitative poker is, instead of saying you do this in this spot, you do this in this spot, and trying to teach like the thing I said earlier about trying to fix like all the symptoms, you need to find the underlying cause, find the concepts behind poker, and teach conceptually instead of spot specifically. And you need to be able to address people's thought processes instead of addressing all these 1,000 different things you can do. Because yeah, it's a lot easier to teach balanced strategy, but like I said, that's going to kill creativity. You're not going to be someone that's good at exploitative style, because it's a completely different thought process. If you're trying to think about being balanced at the same time as you're trying to think of it exploitative, it's not going to work. I always say, pick your side. Like, if you want to pick GTO, go do that, go do upswing. I say to people like, yo, if you want to do GTO and that you feel like you're more suited to that, go do upswing. It's probably amazing for that. But at the same time, I would recommend to the vast, vast, vast majority of people not to do that, because you're then going to be the person in the WSOP main event that isn't very good at exploiting everyone, because everyone in there's, you know, a weak player, right? Like, you know, like 80% of the field is weak. And that's the difference between like a GTO player playing that event, which might be making like, he'll be making like 40, 50%, which is really good. And then someone like Nick Petrangelo or Adrian Mateos, who started out exploitative and then learned the GTO on top of it and can do both. But they started out exploitative, so they're fucking great at exploiting people, because it's a different mindset to be in. And they'll be making like 300-400% in that tournament. And I mean, people think anyway. And it's just a different mode of thinking. It's a different modus operandi. It's like something that you have to start from the ground up. The roots have to be there, and then it has to flourish. And I mean, like, people always say that poker's unbeatable, or now like poker's got so tough it's unbeatable. It's really, really, really not. And I very, very strongly believe, like, yo, if you play insanely good GTO, you're going to crush the micros. You're going to crush the small stakes. You're going to crush the high stakes. You can't learn to be insanely good at GTO overnight. You can't learn it in that long a time. You can learn how to crush 2NL in pretty short amount of time. Learn how to crush 5NL in a pretty short amount of time. It's literally, I could probably sum it up to like 10 rules of things that you need to be doing, and just be
okay. I'm ready for
fuck it. I'll try it.
By the way, so you mentioned upswing, and then you said a couple names. So what if one of those names was on upswing too and had their own course and content?
Yeah, I think it would be. I mean, okay, if people only watch their courses and then ignore the GTO stuff, I think it'd be fine. But if there's a collision of people's thought processes, especially at the beginning of their career, it gets so fucking confusing. And like any successful poker player can probably relate to this. Like, when you're at the beginning of your poker career and you're doing really well, but then you watch like a training video and you try and incorporate it and it just goes to shit. Yeah. Or you watch like Tom Dwan, you're like, now I'll try check raising that, and you just like lose everything. Like, it's that you have to have your own fundamental way of thinking and build on it and build on it and build on it. But if you try and have this sphere of GTO, this sphere of exploitative, you collide them, it's just going to be an absolute mess.
Yeah, I think when I always learned poker, it was very, very exploitive. I think that's why on Ignition specifically, my win rate was so crazy, was because I was just super, super strong at exploitive strategy. And on Ignition, when you're playing anonymous with people that you don't play with for any longer than, I don't know, sometimes 10 to 100 or 200 hands, exploitative strategy there is what's going to help you crush. But I think a lot of those same things that help you crush those players on Ignition really hurt you against better players in other sites. So it's kind of this very, you have to have that sort of game style of being a much more balanced player and thinking about balance at a very high level to be able to compete at higher stakes. But this is higher stakes. I don't think this is necessarily applicable to lower stakes unless you're playing against the bots.
100% agree.
Yeah.
100% agree. And I think that if someone managed to get up, I'd say 200 L Zoom, or like 1K tournaments online, or like 10 to 25K tournaments live, I would say, if you want to crush these stakes, you now need to learn GTO. There'll be a few people that never need to learn GTO. Like, I'd like to think I was one of them. Like, my win rate in the high rollers was just insane. I really felt like I was owning the GTO people quite well. And like someone like Adrian Mateo, he got really good GTO afterwards. But someone like Mustafa or Bryn Kenny, absolutely annihilating the high rollers. And they probably run like under 5 sims in their life on like PO Silver or something.
Yeah, I don't know much about who's doing what in the high rollers. I don't know, man. Do you pay a lot of attention to what's happening in that world of things, the high rollers and the players and stuff like that?
I don't anymore, but I follow a few of the like my the people that I like on Instagram and stuff, and I'm always like supporting them from the background, because I choose not to go to any of these things, but anymore. But I, you know, someone like Mustafa, I just can't help but cheer him on.
Yeah. What we had the 10 rules, and then we changed this up. What are some of these 10 rules here, kid?
All right, let's fucking do this. This is 10 rules.
If you want to make millions of dollars and crush the small stakes and micro stakes, Charlie Carroll's here to tell you 10 rules and how to do it. Charlie, what are the 10 rules?
Okay, so when you're playing, and the first thing I would say is this is everything that I say is just going to be like tendencies. So when you're playing 2NL, you need to have these solid thought processes out first. You need to know your opening ranges. You need to know defending ranges-ish, but you can learn that. You need to be thinking, okay, what kind of hands can my opponent have? What hand do I have? Let's say I got top pair. I got king, queen on king, jack, 7 flush draw. How big can I bet to make a worse king, a jack, or a flush draw, or a straight draw call? What do I want to try and get value from all of them on the flop, and then only maybe a king, a jack, and a flush draw on the turn and go really big? Do I think that people are so stationary that I can just bet pot and then bet pot and then probably like, you know, bet like a third on the river to get value from all the 1 pairs? Probably, yeah. And it's that rule is that, if I could summarize it in one sentence, is think about your hand relative to your opponent's range and how you can exploit that maximally. And that would be the fundamental basis of micro stakes poker. And if you can get that down, and this is a lot harder than it sounds, but it's very, very, very doable. If you build up a natural data bank and you build up your autopilot and your intuition, and you start really getting a good critical thought process, you can annihilate the micro stakes just using that. Because if you're not sat there worrying about like balancing your own range or having enough bluffs in this spot, you can just play how you're meant to play and just be like, I want to get the maximum value out of his hand. Because people on 2NL, they're not thinking past what hand have I got? How much do I want to call? Mm-hmm. Like they tend not, shout out to 2NL players, like I'm sure some are, but like most people on 2NL not thinking past that level. So if they have a big hand, they're going to call a big bet. If they have a small hand, they're going to call a small bet. And this is just a tendency. Some people will just call down everything with bottom pair. So like, for instance, if you flop a set, you want to bet fucking big. If you flop deuces on ace, king, deuce, just pot, overbet. People aren't playing 2NL to fold top pair, you know? And it's this kind of shit that I would never, ever do that as a bluff. And this is where GTO would come in and be like, oh, well, if you're doing that only for value 100%, you're exploitable and you're not going to do well. And it's so dumb. So dumb. Like, I just can't. I know that there'll be a lot of people who just be like, no, Doug's right. He's helped me. I really think he's great. And like, he is fucking great. But that thought process specifically, when applied in certain situations, which the whole of the micro stakes and most of live poker, it's so dumb. And he's not a dumb person. So I got through 2 rules.
Aren't there other people teaching this style out there? It's kind of like Doug, the one that gets associated with the leader of this, because that's how he has millions of views on his YouTube videos, and I think that's the style that he always has. And sometimes it's annoying to talk poker with him because he'll be like, "Oh, it's this." I'm like, "All right, okay." There's no room for debate. There's no room for the creativity. It's just like, kind of that's.
I mentioned Doug as like the GTO player. I mentioned him as like like a Doug style of GTO poker, and Ike Haxton just went, "That's ridiculous."
Yeah, I think
Ike's a bit bitchy.
People would argue that, like a lot of the guys like Hollywood Haxton or like Sauce or any of these guys would argue that Doug doesn't really play that way. He might teach a style, but they wouldn't say it's a GTO style that he's really
he might not play GTO when he's actually, and he doesn't really like. There's a distinction between balanced and GTO, and like I'm kind of roughing the lines in between the two words just because like I'm for simplification things. But when watching his stream, when he's playing heads up, especially, he's super exploit.
Wait, when did Hollywood Haxton say this to you? Were you talking to him? What do you have?
I don't want to shout. I don't want to bang
Ike. You here? I think Ike might be here. He used to be on a lot of podcasts. I think he might actually be on the beanbag chair. Right
I do remember he used to be on. Why did he stop?
Ike. Charlie.
Ike, you there? Yo.
Charlie Carroll's on the podcast. You want to come talk to him? He's coming. He's coming in, Charlie. He's coming in. Hey,
oh my God,
Charlie, how are you? Hello.
Oh my God, I'm blessed. You used to be my hero. I used to have my profile picture as me playing next to you on my first ever high roller.
Thank you. That's not GTO.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then I found out you kind of mocked people for saying things that were silly, and I thought that was a bit rude. So I stopped. I took you off my profile picture.
That's not good. Okay.
Just a point of criticism. I think it must be strange being so much smarter than everyone, man. Is it strange?
It hurts. Yes, it hurts. Yeah. I don't know how to do the voice anymore. I can't do the voice. I forgot the Hollywood accent voice. It merges with the Timmy voice.
Amazing.
You met Timmy at all? You met Timmy. You'll meet Timmy at some point in time. Yeah, I can't. I'm trying to do the Hollywood accent. I used to have the Hollywood accent impression down. He used to hang out at my house all the time with the beanbag chair, and then I moved, and then he stopped hanging out in the beanbag chair all the time. But yeah, he used to be around.
Amazing.
Shout the Hollywood accent.
Shout out to Ike. He's so good.
Working hard.
I'm curious actually. What is your relationship now with D-Negs like?
Pretty good.
Yeah, really.
We got dinner the other night.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Me and D-Negs and then another one of our friends. We got some dinner. Yeah.
Really? Okay, fair. Yeah, I was unsure because you definitely didn't take sides between his and Doug's thing, but I wasn't sure if there was going to be some collateral damage there.
Well, I mean, if I have an issue with someone, I usually just talk to them. So, we had a conversation and we talked it out. And I mean, I don't know. That's usually if you talk to people and sit down with them and have a conversation with them and explain where you're coming from and they explain where they're coming from. And if you're open to finding some middle ground and realizing that, I mean, like, why have this, like, let's move past this. And that's sort of the point I got. I was like, I don't see a reason why we shouldn't work together in some capacity, or like, I think we both want great things for Poker World and we're just in different positions of our life and different companies. And I mean, he's explained exactly where he's coming from with the approach he's taken and what he's tried to do for players and stuff like that. And I still think he's made some and influenced some positive changes in a lot of parts of the poker world too. So, whether it comes to online, like that's just a bigger thing. And, I wish he wouldn't support the idea of having the site be more raked, but at the same time, I understand the position that he's in too, as the deal he has with them, and they bring in new people, and this isn't PokerStars people. These are Amaya people. These are business people. These aren't poker players. These guys don't give a fuck about poker. They care about making money and paying back the $5 billion loan or whatever it is. So yeah, I get that. It's a tough position to be in. I'd like to think I'd handle it one way or not, but I mean, I don't know how I would handle it if I was that person too. So, yeah, I can speak up and say, hey, I wish he might say more for players in terms of less rake and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to hate it. I'm not going to be like, this is like, I don't know. I'm going to get over it at some point in time. And I think that's the point I'm at right now.
Yeah, no, I'm super with you on that. And I think that even though you said that pretty casually, that's something that a lot of people don't do. And a lot of people could probably learn a lot from. Just if you have a problem with someone, instead of bitching, instead of just holding in negative thoughts, just being like, hey, you say it in like a nice way, but like, hey, I have an issue with you. Here's why. I'm sure it's fine, but I want to hear your side of it. And don't go into it just thinking like, oh, I need to be right. I need to win this conversation, because sometimes you're going to be wrong, and sometimes they're going to give you information that will change your perspective. You'll be like, oh my God, I was annoyed for absolutely no reason, but it makes a lot of sense what you're doing. So it's really hard to judge Daniel for what he's doing in PokerStars without knowing the full situation. And
I talked with him more about, he's explained this to me a bunch of times, and especially, the other day we were out to dinner, he went more deeper into exactly, where he's coming from and his thought process with things, and sort of like the role and decisions and influence he tries to make with the company and what he fights for and what he stands for. And obviously that's not always going to align. It's not Daniel Negreanu's company. It's PokerStars. It's their $1 billion corporation. So the amount of influence he can have is only so big, and he can't make everything happen and every possible change happen. And he can only care about so many different things. So I think it's just better for me, from my standpoint, to try to work together with the other people in poker who have influence over the community, who are, I feel like, out there for the good of players and want the game to grow into a good place and want more people to play. And, so I don't know. That's kind of where I stand with things right now. It could change. Could be.
No, I think it's super good. Yeah. If I could offer you one like compliment criticism on the way that you speak, I think that you have so many insightful and profound things to say, but I think you say it in such a casual way that people probably aren't listening. Like they'll listen, but they're hearing, but not listening, kind of thing,
Interesting. So what do you think? How do you think someone can be more, make somebody listen, I guess, when they say things, if they think they're saying things in a casual way?
The way that I do it, and I'm sure there are loads of different ways to do it, is just like kind of halt the conversation, be like, yo, by the way, to anyone that's listening, here is something that I've learned about life, and I might be wrong, but this is my opinion on it. And I think that it probably comes from like a place of modesty, because I used to have the exact same thing where I'd say something and people would, in a group, probably they would hear it, but they wouldn't like take it on board. And I think that you're in a very fortunate position you have like the charisma and assertiveness to be able to actually make people listen. There's always a certain type of power dynamic as well. When people are here to watch your podcast, people are here because they're interested in you. They're not here because they're interested in the guest. Like there are so many other ways that they could watch videos of me or podcasts of me out there, but like essentially they're here to watch the interaction between both of us. But the reason they're subscribed, the reason they keep coming back is because of you. And that, even though I'm sure you don't see yourself better than the people out there, it creates this power dynamic where people can actually listen to you. And I found that in Twitch loads, actually. Like there's like this one guy that said he was smoking weed every day. And if you've ever met like a super pothead, the amount of effort it takes to convince them that smoking weed every day isn't good for them, which, by the way, guys, it's not. Like every expert I've spoken to on this agrees with it. And any drug veteran I've spoken to agrees with this. If you're letting the drug control you, and if you're trying to justify doing something every day as a habit instead of, maybe like once a week, once every 2 weeks, and having a true intention of going into, I want to smoke and I want to do this, then that is a really, really dangerous place to be in. And it's gonna spiral you down and make you lose control of a lot of decisions. So there was someone like that in the chat, and I was going on a rant about weed, and so like he messaged me being like, yo, I'm actually gonna try and give up weed for this. And that is one example of so many where I've been speaking about something that I'm really, really passionate about, and people have been like, so fucking true. I do that. I need to stop doing that. And people have said that stuff in the chat, and people have also said stuff that they do, and I've thought, and like, that's a really fucking good point. I get that wrong, and then share that. And I don't know. I think that there's a really weird ethical situation for you where you're speaking to so many people so consistently that everything you say is kind of like amplified ethically. You say one good thing and it reaches, I don't know, like 20,000 people. Imagine 20,000 people, so many fucking people, man. So many people. Imagine if you can give good advice to 20,000 people at once. You fucking can. You do all the time. And I think people underestimate this because they're kind of just like numbed to the idea of huge numbers on YouTube and Twitch and whatnot. But imagine 20,000 people in a fucking room, a big fucking room. And you don't get that pre-internet. And maybe you're doing books and stuff, but like it's a really, really weird ethical situation. I think that is why it's okay to be really critical of people like Doug if he says some dickish stuff, or D-Negs if he says some dickish stuff, because they have a ludicrously big following. And if they're just being trolly, or if they're spreading negativity, that is being spread to so many fucking people. And I think you're in a really good situation because you are a positive person. You have a lot to teach these people. You've met so many different people. You've experienced so many different things that I don't know. It's that I'm sure you think about this kind of stuff all the time, but there's so much to think about there.
Oh, yeah. I think these are things I think about. I don't talk much about, or I don't really talk with anybody about them. But yeah, these are always things you think about and you worry about, and you want to say the right thing or do the right thing, or you want to, put out a positive message out there to people. And I think that's why I probably don't say or do a lot of things or create a lot of content that I might want to create, because I'm always sort of unsure of, I don't know, just, you never know. I guess, yeah, that's why I don't talk about certain poker sites. That's why I don't really get into, you should play here, you should play there, just because like, I don't really know what's happening out there. And I'm sure there are some sites that I would say people, go check out and play when people ask me all the time, but I just ultimately decide against it because, I don't know.
So something I might push back on there a tiny bit is that there's definitely a danger in saying something wrong, and that, like, especially when you spread it to that many people. But in essence, there's also a danger of not saying something that's right as well. So if there is a website you should be staying away from, or one that people will really benefit from going on, and a exercise program that you think is really good, by not saying that, you're actually stripping tens of thousands of people from that knowledge. So that's also dangerous. There's also like a scary, it's just like you're fucked either way.
Never ending danger, it sounds like. Yeah, it sounds like there's always, one way or the other. And you might drive yourself crazy, think about the danger all the time of what you say, or good or bad sort of thing like that. The site I'm talking about that's bad is America's Card Room, of course, guys. It's ECR, they don't give a fuck about you. Come on, man. The CEO's down there getting drunk on live streams, taking backhanded shots at somebody who tries to help their site out. So I mean, that's the site you're dealing with, man. Just go watch any fucking Phil Nagy clip of him talking and then say, do I feel confident trusting this guy with my money and with the security of the site? And then your answer is going to be no. So that is what it is. That's the only site I feel that passionate about right now.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. What's number 2, Charlie? We had 10 rules.
Yeah, we got through 2. We got through the thought process and the bet big. I mean, bluff small would be another one. Bluff as small as you can. All right, so here's another one. If you're trying to choose a size to target the person's range, if you have a value bet as big as you possibly can, to the point, like find the line, find where you think the line is. Oh, I think he'll call 92 cents, but he probably won't call 94 cents. You know, find that line. And if you're bluffing, find the opposite line. I think he will fold third pair if I bet a quarter pot, but not a fifth pot. You know, it's like try and play with that. And the more you do it, the more intuition you'll get. And everyone's going to be different. You're going to be playing against different people every time. But there are player tendencies within these pools that are just going to, if you get the hang of how a specific pool of people play, which is a huge thing to get the hang of, but it's very, very doable, then you can just be on the level above them. That'd be like the 4th rule, like be on the level above. I'm not going to go through all the rules now because whatever, it's not super interesting.
Because you got to figure the rules. I'm sure you're trying to figure out the rules in your mind, where the rules stand. You probably have some sort of like feeling in your mind right now of where they are, but you probably want to flesh the ideas out a little bit more.
Exactly. Yeah. I have feelings that haven't been quite articulated yet. And
yeah,
I think
that's all my feelings are, Charlie. They're all articulated inside my mind, but I never say them. So that's why when they come out, I don't know how they're going to come out. You know, like, what you just said is something I made a Pop Minimal video the other day playing 10-20 Ignition. And that was one of the first big value bet I had. That was exactly what I said on the river, is that you're sort of trying to figure out, okay, how much is this person going to call? Like that's the trick. That's a big part of poker, is to figure out, okay, you have a value hand. That's all that matters. You have a hand for value. You want to figure out what my opponent has and how much they're going to call. And you being able to come up to the best assessment is what makes great players great. And what makes weaker players weak is that the weaker players might decide, okay, this guy's only going to call a 40% pot. Whereas a great player is going to decide, okay, I think 80% pot here is the way to go. So figuring out
that's exactly right. And even though you were pushing back against me on the kind of like balance and GTO stuff, which I really appreciate, by the way, I just love it when like on podcasts when people like disagree and like challenge viewpoints. I hate it when people are like, oh, I agree all the time to everything. Even though you did push back on it, pretty much everything you've said about strategy so far has been like, yeah, you're exploit and you think exploit's legit.
I love it. I love exploitive strategy. I mean, that's really how I play for the most part. I mean, I think there is obviously you have to think about balance. And you have to think about being extremely balanced on a lot of later street spots to be competitive at high stakes cash games or mid stakes cash games right now online. But I mean, I sort of always came up playing very exploitive. Like I didn't learn from watching video. I just learned from playing. That's how I learned poker. I didn't really learn from reading books. I learned from being on 2+2, talking poker with friends, watching training videos, but sort of sleeping while I watch them, and then just playing a lot and thinking a lot about the game. And I mean, the things when you think about a lot about the game, you really think coming from an exploitive sort of standpoint, I feel like, and that's where I was coming from with a lot of my strategy. But that's only going to get you so far a lot of times when you're trying to play against really great players who are some of the biggest winners in the games that you're playing in. You can't only bet $2,100 on a spot with your value hands and never bluffing, because they're just going to stop calling you. And you sort of realize that, okay, once this person's able to pick up on my bet sizing and what I'm doing, then you need to deviate from that strategy, and you need to start including different hands in your ranges. But that's sort of more advanced concept that comes into play. And, that's not as something you need to worry about if you're playing against a weaker player. You need to worry about it a little bit, I do feel like, because if you play against a weaker player 1,000 times and you only bet big and when you only have it, I mean, obviously he's going to pick up on it at some point in time, but it takes a while before that person's going to be able to pick up on that.
Yeah. And the thing is that when you're an explosive player, you get an intuition for when people are picking up on your shit, and then you just reverse it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
That as well too, unfortunately. That's once again, that's a hard, okay, like, well, when are you gonna, well, when I think he picks up on it, then I'm gonna do this. And you're like, well, how do you, what makes you think that? That's a good point.
Okay, all right. Rule 5. Okay. Rule fucking 5 is that the only teacher that you truly have in life / in poker is yourself. Like, people can't teach you everything, and so much of your people at home's micro stakes people's knowledge of poker has to come from you playing, you thinking, you working stuff out, because we can give you the tools of how to do it. We can teach you the concepts. We can nudge you in the right direction, but you've got to be the person that does that legwork. And I think some people get maybe a bit reliant on coaches, and that's something that I do. And you know, I'm coaching one of my friends or one of my students. I'll say, okay, I'm not going to answer this question that you have. You answer it for me, and if you give me a satisfying answer, then I'll reply. And I'll wait until I get a satisfying answer, and it works. Like then they're forced to be like, oh fuck, now I need to start thinking about this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's true. I think you know, I actually remember one guy I worked with, he talked about that. He's like, well, I don't really want to have to rely on you all the time to help me out with these. And I was like, that's a really good point. I think I would do well if I had a coach that was like constantly, or I don't know. I feel like a poker coach is an underrated thing, because I need someone to be like, hey, dumb fuck, you're stop three betting 25% this session. Why don't you cool it down to 12% this session? And I could really have used that and currently use that. Like, you know, I'm just making bad plays. Like, hey, all right, calm down, idiot. Come on, take a break, take a walk, take some water, calm down, stop playing like this, stop playing like this. I could certainly coach in poker, and if anyone wants to be my poker coach, please get in touch with me.
Yeah, what happened with that Jane Anders stuff? I didn't really follow it.
I don't know, nothing really.
Oh, really? Okay, nothing too exciting.
I don't know. He made a video. Doug made a video. I don't know. I think it's in litigation right now. I don't really know exactly what's coming from here, but
okay, whatever. Let's move on then. Have you ever been in a super toxic relationship
with a woman?
Yes, but if no, then deviate to a non-romantic relationship.
Oh, no, not with a woman, no, but in general, probably like with family for sure. I think so. Yeah, I think I had toxic relationships with some people in my family, but I was never aware that I was a toxic relationship until I started wondering why I acted the way I did and where those things came from. And then I thought more about, well, who was the driving forces in my life that influenced me and that helped me learn what I was doing with my life. And I was like, oh, a lot of that's my family. And then a lot of these things I'm trying to get rid of come from my family. And I still know those things are because I see them when I interact with certain people in my family. So yeah, I think.
What kind of characteristics or qualities did you get from your family that you're trying to erase?
Oh God, complaining, being an asshole, being judgmental, being rude, being mean, being very gossipy, like those sorts of things all come from people in my family for sure. You know, there was no like growth attitude. There's no, what did you learn today? There's no, how do you get better at this? There's no, how are you working at this? It's just like, you're this person here did this did that, you're this, you're an asshole, it's all this kind of just constant sort of negativity, complaining type of things that I got from them. And I never really realized that until I stopped talking with people that did that, and I started talking with more people who are positive or more people who are focused at getting better at things, whether it's their life or poker or whatever. And I was like, oh, okay, wait a second, that's that.
And have you noticed a transition on the kind of people that you like to hang out with now you've made that transition?
Oh yeah, I mean for sure, yeah. I hang out with, I don't really associate myself with a lot of people that fall under that category. And I think that I've meet a lot of people in poker who are like that, and a lot of people who are more positive people, and the more, I guess, that just aren't that type of way. And I think a lot of the people I'm associated with now are all fall into the non-toxic relationship kind of thing. Yeah.
So what is it about this new person that makes her so many heads above everyone else's shoulders? I'm not sure that's an idiom, but what makes her so much better than the other people you've dated?
Oh, the person I'm dating with right now?
Yeah. The love of your life.
Oh, I mean, I don't know. She's, I don't know. Who knows? It's a good question, Charlie. It's a good question. There's a lot of things. I mean, I don't know. She's, I think I've always tried to date people that I thought were awesome at life, or that did a lot of cool things, or that were ambitious, or that were sort of like warriors, could do anything they wanted to do. And yeah, I mean, I think the person that I currently like in my life is very much like that. She's a beast. She can do anything she wants in the entire world. Very uplifting person, very motivating person, very supportive person, I mean, just like a lot of the same interests that I have too, which is a very big differentiator that people I've dated in the past haven't necessarily loved poker, or haven't loved the great game of Pop in Omaha, or, you know, haven't loved being positive, or haven't loved video games, or haven't loved content. Like, you know, when you guys all really enjoy a lot of the same things. And
do you play video games?
I play Fortnite now. Yes.
How many hours a week do you think you sink into it?
Too much. I played yesterday 7 hours. I loved it.
Oh man. So this is one of the things that I'm so glad I gave up gaming when I was like, I think like 15. I used to spend so much time playing like RuneScape, Diablo 2, that kind of shit. And oh my God, even though it's so fucking fun and like Call of Duty and all that shit as well when I was a kid, it really eats away at your life. And it's one of the things that, apart from like the small amounts of benefits you get from like, oh, I've got quicker reactionary skills or maybe slightly quicker thinker, the amount of benefits that you reap from it are just nowhere near other shit that you'll be doing with your life.
So what I've been thinking about how does playing Fortnite benefit me outside of, you can play duos and squads, you can spend time playing with friends, which is what I mainly do on there, but does it help you get better at something? Because to get better at Fortnite, you have to master a lot of different mechanics and you have to master strategy. And is there any correlation between the strategy that you learn there and the process of getting better that you have with that video game? And then can that apply to working out, or can that apply to poker, or can that apply to diets? And then is there any potential long-term benefit from being very good at a specific game like Fortnite for myself personally, when I could potentially do Fortnite podcasts, or I could potentially decide to do content, or I could decide to stream, which is always on the back of my mind. Is there any potential benefits from just understanding the game at that high of level for that? And these are some things I always ask myself. And
so,
you know, it's all you justify. I can justify any. I can justify like, oh, I'm going to take up a drug. This drug issue, or travel the world doing drugs because it could be good for the stories in the podcast one day. So I feel like you could justify anything that you do to be beneficial to your life if you really want to do it.
I kind of just want to hold up like a big 10 for the mental gymnastics that I just watched. Very, very impressive, may I say. I mean, that was maybe slightly akin to the drug thing that you say of watching like a heroin addict say why he should be shooting up Skag every weekend. You know, it's there are always going to be benefits in everything that we do, and that's where I think a lot of the holes and the gaps for rationalizations can kind of seep in, where you can easily, if you're very biased in one direction, you can see the benefits but you don't see the detriments, or you see the benefits but you can't see the benefits versus doing like, I don't know, reading or learning shit, or like going out and, you know, sitting under a waterfall with the PLO perfect girlfriend. And hey,
I didn't say perfect girlfriend. Come on.
Whoa, I'm so sorry. I didn't want to put words in your mouth.
The only reason it might not be perfect is because it's me in my head, and you know, thinking about this, thinking about that. So
it's not her, it's you. Smart. Yeah.
Sure. Go with that. Everyone says that, right? It's not them, it's me.
Yeah.
They say that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they say it is the other person. It's not them. It's always me. It's always me. It's never her. She never does anything wrong. She always makes the right decision. She's like, listen, no, it's always me.
Can I see a gun pointing at you out the side of the screen?
It's always me.
Right at your head.
It's always me. Never her. Never her. She's awesome. Never
when
her.
You're in relationships, what do you usually argue about? What are the arguments usually based on?
That's a good question for somebody else, not for me. I don't know what I argue with. I don't know. I feel like I'm not a very argumentative person in general, but I'm sure I argue about Potlam in Omaha. That's for sure. That's one thing I argue about right now is Potlam in Omaha.
You never get in like petty arguments or like deep arguments of like, oh, I want to do this in my life. And they're like, why do you want to do this? Think about it. Why are you playing Fortnite instead of spending time holding my hand? You never have any of that?
No, that never comes up. That'd be fun. I would enjoy having those kind of I can argue, but not like get mad. I don't mind arguing or debating with somebody. Like I don't really have any hard feelings that roll over. I enjoy a nice spirited debate. I enjoy a spirited discussion on a topic that I believe strongly in, or that I feel like I have a lot of knowledge about. So that's why anything Potlam and Omaha related, if you say something that I don't agree with on PLO, I get kind of fired up about it, because I believe pretty passionately about PLO and about strategies and about the game and about how to get better at it. So
cool. How comfortable are you? How comfortable are you with me asking like super personal questions?
I don't know. I don't care what you ask. I might just not answer. I might say I'm not going to answer it, but I don't mind. I don't really. It doesn't really matter to me.
All right, that's perfect. Because some people, I mean, I had the inkling that you weren't going to be one of these people, but some people, if you ask them personal questions, they feel kind of like compelled to answer, but also they feel uncomfortable answering. But you're obviously like confident enough to just be like, nah, shut up. So the thing that I would say, like, there'd be two possibilities for why you don't have like heated, passionate arguments. I would say that either you're just like zen as fuck, and when someone gets passionate and heated towards you, you're just like, hey, yo, calm down, let's play some PLO, yo. Or I would say that maybe your level of in love and compassion and empathy and connection isn't as like intense as other people's. So where do you think you fall on the spectrum of how much you feel for other people?
Probably the second one. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I think that's probably where I'd fall into. I don't know. I'm just very, like I said, I'm trying to get out of the whole entire poker obsession sort of mindset I had, but I think that's what helped me excel at poker was I was just so focused. I could just turn off the world and turn off relationships and turn off feelings for other people. And then I focused everything on poker. And I think it's trying to turn that off and trying to have these more feelings or have more emotions or allow myself to be connected more, allow myself to be vulnerable more with somebody. I think that's currently where I'm at right now and trying to learn how to do that. That's why I'm trying to play less poker, because I feel like with poker, it's so hard to do that kind of thing, because for me, I just like throw myself into poker and that's all I do all day long and all I think about. And I enjoy that a lot. I hate doing that. So it's like, yeah.
That's an interesting answer. So like you're on the path of wanting to be more connected, more compassionate, and more feeling in general. And you're the same thing as me. Like I started emotionless, so especially when I was playing poker and when I was doing shit, I was dead inside. I'll be on a final table bluffing like something that was like equal to my net worth, and I'd just be like, I don't fucking care, man. Like, it's money. Who gives a shit? Like, come on, it's just a fucking game. Whereas other people, you can see them just like sweating, just like, you know, it's fucking hilarious. But one of the things that, okay, before I say that, what are the things that you're doing right now to increase your compassion and your feeling and your love? And
it's a great question. I think just thinking about it more, trying to be more present in the moment with people that I feel a connection with, or that I'm friends with, or that I have love for, or that I have liking for. I think instead of trying to be in my own head during those moments, rather than being in a different place, thinking about content or thinking about business or thinking about poker or thinking about whatever else is fucking in my mind when I normally am with someone. And I think for a long time, that was the way I always was when I was with someone. So if I was with my friends, it was just, I wasn't there. I was thinking about playing the good games, the games online I'm missing out on, the money I'm missing out on by playing, the EV I'm missing out on by playing. Like, that's how I was for so long. And it's only very recent in the past year or two where instead of when I'm with someone, I'm thinking about being with that person and trying to really think about what they say. And I think that's why I enjoy the podcast so much, is because it forces me to be very present in the moment with a person. When I'm having this conversation with you, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about playing. I'm not thinking about what's going to happen after this. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to have for dinner or what I'm going to have for anything like that. I'm just thinking about what you're saying, what my reaction is to what you're saying. And I think that's why these conversations I have on here tend to go the way that they do, is because I am completely locked in on it. Whereas if I'm not under the podcast, then oftentimes I allow myself to float away from that and just start thinking about other things, unless I really make a concerted effort to be present in that moment. And that's the thing I'm working on the most right now, is just being present, turning off my phone, not thinking about anything else, but just thinking about what that person's saying with that person.
So like this is another amazing example of what I was saying earlier about you having so much to share to people. You said that in such a blasé way, but there's literally just like so much of Eastern philosophy in a fucking nutshell. Like just being mindful and being present. And you say it in a way that's so grounded and relatable to other people that I think if you started the sentence like, hey guys, here's like in a different way that would make people listen, like we said earlier, I think, oh my God, you'd be able to change so many people's lives. I'm sure you already do, but just in such a next level way. It's actually, there's such a curious spot that you find yourself when you start playing poker. I had the same thing as you when I remember I was playing, like I was grinding up the cash stakes. I think I got to like 3-6 or something. And I realized I was making, I don't know, a few $100s an hour or something like that. And I was living with my grandma, and occasionally, like, you know, my whole family would be there, and they'd be like, hey, Charles, you're going to come for dinner today? And I'll be like, well, if I'm making, I don't know, like $500 an hour, how long's the dinner going to take? They'd be like, I don't know, like 2.5 hours. Like, dude, that's an expensive dinner. And like, it's weird. It's like, you can't think like that, but also it's so true. Like you can't escape the logic. And it's very freeing to get to the point where money is no longer the only objective of EV that you're trying to fulfill. And you finally get to like happiness and compassion and sharing love and shit.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think You bring up an interesting point about these things on my mind. And this is why I started my GTO club. And this is why I think the GTO club I started was successful, was because I always felt like I have like the things I say people connected with, but I don't really say a lot of those things on the podcast, because a lot of the podcast is about try to keep the focus on the other person and what the other person has to say. And I try to fill in moments or add some things from my own experience, or, for a number of different reasons. I think it makes for good conversation. That's mainly why I do it. But I don't really let myself come out in videos or come out in even how I sort of, I guess, portray myself on social media a lot of times. And yeah, I don't really know how to do that or how to get it out of me. And I think these questions are interesting because they do get these things out of me. Whereas when I'm sitting around, I'm not thinking like, okay, how can I get this out of me? It's more just like, I want to tell something, I guess, a little more simpler of a story. And I think also when you say things like this, and when you're like, hey, listen to me, it sort of implies that you think you're better than someone else, or you imply that you have something that no one else does, and you want that person to. And I feel like that's not really how I am. And for whatever reason, whether it's self-confidence or whether, I don't think it's that, but just I think it's, I don't know, worried about perception a lot.
It's real tough to, it's real tough to not sound preachy. And it's like a fine, delicate balance. And I definitely go over the top sometimes in sounding preachy. But if you're going to sound preachy and you're going to go over the top, you better say some fucking good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm like, I've been testing out some new ideas, I guess, on Twitter in terms of some things I share, which are a little bit more strategic or a little bit more life strategic. And I mix it in with sarcasm and jokes and stuff like that, because I don't necessarily want to be the one who's like, do this, do that, do this. Because I don't necessarily believe my way is the way to do things. And, like I feel like I'm evolving as a person every day. And the way that I was to get great at poker is not how I am anymore, for better or worse. And, I'm trying to figure out exactly who I am as a person, kind of what we talked about at the beginning, which is that, when I first started the podcast, I was, forming my beliefs, and now I'm figuring out what those beliefs are. And I'm trying to sort of share those beliefs a little bit more with myself and with other people. And that's sort of the stage I'm in right now of just, I don't know, I'm in my 20s, but I'm in my 30s, actually. I should have done these things, but I guess that's what it takes to get great at poker. I mean, how could I have gotten great at poker that way to be in this position? Probably not. So you sort of took doing that to get to this point. And yeah, I guess that, I don't know, try to, how I think about things right now.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if young Joey could hear you speaking right now, when young, blonde, tall, Adonis Joey hearing you with humility, wisdom, compassion. Holy fuck.
Yeah, I don't think I would have. I would have been shocked to some of the things I say about women now and dating. I would have told my younger self, don't be out of line. I told like Jonah, the old wizard assistant, because Jonah gets himself really out of line right now, and I'm sure some of it's influenced by some of the things I said. But I try to tell him, I was like, man, listen, this is gonna have some repercussions, buddy. I'm telling you, you date a million girls when you're 21 and you go out a lot and stuff like that. It's probably gonna have some repercussions on the way you think about dating and the way you think about women when you get older. And be ready for them, because you're going to go through them. So Big J's going through them right now.
But again, on the other side of that, you now have experiences unique to people that have gone to that extreme with being like mildly misogynistic, or going to the extreme with women. And that means that you can, in the same way that an ex-alcoholic can help alcoholics, you can reach people that have that kind of mindset, which in America is fucking huge, towards women, and you can speak to them in a language that they'll understand in ways that like I wouldn't be able to.
No, for sure. That's something I think. I mean, that's kind of like finding the good in anything that you do, is that even with your negative experience, you can find the positive out of them. And whether that becomes in the way that you change yourself, or the way that you might teach someone else, or the way that you might share information in these sort of micro conversations that you have on a one-on-one basis with someone you just meet. Like, I feel like going through some of those things, you can take positive away from it. And that's what I've tried to do with anything that I've done or thought or whatever. And, try to figure out a way to put that into myself and the things that I say. So I think like the number one thing I need to work at is just having more conversations with people, because that's something that I tend to not do. I don't know about you. Are you talking with people all the time?
Yeah, constantly, man.
You're having a lot of verbal conversations with people.
Can't stop it. Yeah, I'm so lucky at the moment to have surrounded myself with people that are, I'm not going to say like-minded, but like kind of like-spirited, that they have a lot of the same esoteric beliefs as me. They're super into rationality and things like that, and like metaphysics and shit. And shout out to metaphysics, by the way. Not going to speak too much about it on the podcast. So something I noticed is that, and this probably reflects really well to people that are watching this, and I've seen it in the chat definitely, that you don't ever seem to have a problem if someone has a like severely opposing opinion to you. And I've noticed some comments in the chat of when I've been speaking about TTO and I spoke about veganism, people being like, fuck this guy, he's so dumb, he can't do shit. And then I'll speak about something else, and the same person will be like, oh, I kind of like him actually. Like it's one of those things that if you can get to the point where Joey's at, where he doesn't dislike someone for having an opinion that's opposing to him, because if you really feel a lot of hatred towards someone for having an opposing opinion, that probably means that you're a bit of an ideologue. That instead of having like rational, dispassionate, normal ways of having an opinion, it's become part of your identity. And that feeling of discomfort or anger that you get, or defensiveness, that's because that has been challenging part of your identity. And that is where you start getting irrational, defensive, aggressive thoughts. And basically what we want to sum up with is be like the Dalai Joey Lama.
The Dalai Joey Lama. That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, and I feel like in the pod, like especially the podcast, I guess I'm pretty much like that all the time, though, is that I want someone to express themselves however they feel. And I'm not trying to convince anybody what they're saying is right or wrong or anything like that, unless we're talking about Pop in Omaha and you say something dumb about PLO. That's the one time I'll probably get like, whoa, maybe they can't get good at PLO like that. 3-betting 35% of your hands on the button if you're trying to say that as like that's, but outside of that, for the most part, like I said, I kind of just, I don't try to form what I believe in, form what I think, and form how I feel about things. And if someone else thinks or feels differently about me, I don't like, that's cool with me. I like learning, and whether I think they're right or wrong, I'm still learning about where they're coming from. And maybe I find a way to think that they're right or think that they're crazy or whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Everyone's so different. I feel like you can't just dislike anyone because they have a different opinion than you and be like, oh, this guy's this fucking idiot or whatever. I mean, I don't know. Everyone's different out there. I think that's what makes things a lot of fun.
I think that's super true. And like, it's something I've noticed from the best teachers I've ever had. And I've been really, really fortunate to have some incredible teachers that whenever they're talking, they always have this humility side of them of not assuming that everything they say is super legit. They're trying to learn from their students at the same time. They just like this one shaman that I had a peyote ceremony with. Every now and again, he was like this proper like street talking, but like really profound genius shaman. And he was doing this ceremony. It changed my fucking life. But every now and again, he just throw in this sentence like, oh, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, man. Maybe I'm wrong. But we're all just babies in this universe. And it's so fucking true. Like, if you got an alien species that had just like 10K IQ and looked at humans and looked at all the humans being like, oh, I've got 120 IQ and I look down on people that've got 100 IQ because they're fucking idiots. Ha, 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 ha. I'm right, they're wrong. It would be so fucking funny. It'd be like us watching ants argue about who's got the biggest antenna, It'd just be so silly. And I think just like, I always like using like hypothetical aliens as perspective because we're so close to each other on these, like all these spectrums and like intelligence, compassion, kindness, aggression, all of these different things. And people have this tendency to be so judgmental of someone just next to them on the scale because humans are all just so close to each other. And it's just, I don't know, it's a bit silly, isn't it?
No, I talked about that in my my late night thoughts rant video I had the other night. I was talking about that. I find that sort of part of the poker world pretty comical in that if you're playing just because someone's staked and they are able to get a stake and sell action for higher stakes, they look down on people that play lower stakes that might not sell that action or might not be staked, and they think that they're so much better. They think that this person should listen to them. They have no respect for that person's opinion about life or about the game. And I see that happen so much in poker. I find that extremely fascinating. And I guess just the idea if someone wins a tournament, people want to listen to that person more, I find fucking very funny and kind of silly. But yeah, these are things I notice a lot in poker world that I've been noticing a lot more this year than I really haven't noticed in the past. And I don't know. You're
expanding, man. You're expanding. Oh, can I give a shout out, which is going to be segue into what something?
Can you give a shout out? Can you give a? What do you mean?
May I give a shout out? Thank you, Joey.
Bring the fire to the shout outs, Charlie. What do you mean? Of course, you can give a shout out.
The shout out is kind of a segue, but I would love to introduce you to there's a specific spiritual healer that, and I know spiritual healer will just like turn people's brains off instantly, but she has literally changed my fucking life. She's 100% legit, 100% the kindest person. And I think you would be one of the people where you're very in touch with yourself, you're very open-minded, and you're very driven to improve yourself, but I think you still maybe have like a few blocks that you're not quite sure where they come from. She will tell you exactly where they come from, and I want to give you her contact. I'm not going to say her name, but if anyone wants to reach out to me on any social media, I read but not reply to all my messages, but if you ask, hey, can I have the name of that spiritual healer, I will give you her email address.
Yeah, I'm 100% in. I need some spiritual healing for sure. Listen, I mean, whatever you got, kid. Any suggestion you have, I'm willing to try out. I think that's
sick.
Yeah. Karen O'Sullivan said, this is like the conversation you have at 5 a.m. after a house party. This is actually this is like a 6 a.m. kind of conversation you have on like a couch when maybe you're coming down from the night of activities, whatever the activities were. And I mean, I've been in a lot of those situations. I'm sure Charlie's been in those situations before too. So I understand how those things work, and that's true. Yeah. I feel like this is kind of like a conversation like that where you sort of it's like this is probably the same conversation we'd have if we were hanging out here right now, or if we were outside having dinner or something like that too. It just happens to be on a podcast form, and I think it's rare that somebody doesn't try to, I guess, like change the way that they're going to talk or the things that they're going to say. Mm-hmm. And I think we mentioned that at the beginning. I think that's the one thing that makes you unique is that you're willing to put a lot of stuff out there and say a lot of these things and say what you think about someone else, where a lot of people don't do that because they're shy or they don't want to make that assumption, or they don't want to be wrong. And whereas it seems like you enjoy making assessments, or you enjoy saying some things that I think are pretty, I don't know, it's a way of communication that I don't necessarily do all the time. Because I think just like I told you right now, I normally wouldn't say that to someone else when I have a conversation with them. But I've kind of noticed the people that I enjoy talking with the most do that often in a conversation. They'll like point something out, and I enjoy when they do that. So I've been trying to incorporate it more into my own sort of style that I converse with. And
yeah, super smart. And if I had it my way, I would approach people on the tube and ask them questions like this. I used to be really, really extreme about this, and when I was like more sociopathic, because I always have such a curiosity for this kind of talk, and I used to hate small talk. I think it's actually kind of good now. But I used to think it was just for dumb people. I used to think it was just like a waste of time. And actually a story, linking into what I said before, when my parents used to try and get me to go to dinner. I think I was like 14 this time, so it's like before poker. But I used to always avoid going to dinners with them because I would just be like, I can't handle talking about the weather. And what always happened is if I went to dinner with them, we would get in a debate and everyone just get pissed off at me because I'd be like, oh, I just wanted to debate my side. And I was very bad at finding the balance. I've only very recently started being able to not have these like intense, deep conversations. So I realized it makes some people really uncomfortable. So I'm being a lot more like spot selective. But one time they finally coerced me to go to dinner with it. It was like a home dinner, but there was like the whole family around, including my grandma. And they were doing their thing, speaking about conservatories and whatnot. And, my family's interesting. They're smart, but when they get together, sometimes they used to be kind of like, speak about not the most interesting things. And I was just quiet because I was just thinking about my own shit. And finally my mum got it out of me. She's like, Charles, come on, just really, no one else call me Charles, I'll fucking kill you. And just really, come on, just like join in with the conversation. What are you thinking about right now? I was like, you don't want to hear it? And they were like, come on, just say, we can take it, it's fine. And I was like still like between autistic and sociopath at this point, and I was very unaware of social cues and what was okay. I just learned that saying stuff tended to go badly, and I was like, okay, fine. So I was thinking that everyone around this table is probably a murderer. And they were like, what? And I was thinking that, okay. And the example I gave, and I remember it really well, is I first asked the question, I'll ask you this. Would you ever walk past, let's say that there's this charity that if you give it $5, you can save a child's life. It's going to have a great life afterwards. Would you ever, first question, would you ever steal money from that charity box?
I don't know. Who knows? I don't know. It depends.
Wait, you're saying you might steal $5 and essentially kill a child for $5? In
every version of my life. I mean, maybe there's
no, just you now. Just you now.
Oh no, I don't. Why would
okay, that's super fun. Yeah, good. So would you ever walk past that charity box and not give it $5?
Probably, yeah. And by probably, I mean, yeah. What does it say? How do I know the kid's life's going to be saved?
It's a thought experiment, man. Hypothetically.
Then yeah, I'm sure it would, yes.
Okay, so like my family were split on that, and some said yeah they wouldn't, some said yeah and no they wouldn't, and then you can extend that and say like, okay, I think it costs like on average like $1,000 to save someone's life, and I looked around the room, I was like, how much have you guys spent on clothes or your car or anything like that that's unnecessary over the last, I don't know, 10 years? And if you add it all up, essentially everyone we've murdered people. And that's one of the things that I think Western culture, or like rich culture, at least the first world countries, they tend to like push to the back of their minds. And because we know that people are suffering out there, we know that, you know, you might not know this, but you can like feed a Kenyan family for a day with 50 cents. How do you internalize the fact that you are putting, let's say you spend like, I don't know, like $50 on a game or something, or $50 on just like a meal? How are you internalizing it being okay to do that instead of finding a good way to donate your money or to do well with your money?
Yeah, Binks in the chat said not saving and murdering are two different things.
Very true.
Yeah, I guess you could drive yourself crazy if you thought about things from that perspective all the time too. I guess it's about finding a balance potentially on how you think about that. And I'm sure I put a lot of that in the back of my mind, and when it comes to the idea of giving money or donating money. And I think a lot of that comes from the idea that, where are we really giving money to? And we've heard so many stories where when you donate money, the money is just not even given to any of the people it's intended to be given to. And I think you sort of maybe build up a bad idea of what charity is or what these charity companies are, and you're unsure how to. I think if you knew 100% of the time your $5 or your $10 went to, all right, it's going to here, this person who is allocating it in this way 100% of the time, I think more people would be much more willing to donate money and to give money and to help things out. But that's not the case, and that's not what a lot of people probably believe is that they probably just think they're giving money and hope it goes to a good place, but they might.
And that's super legit. There's so much shittiness going on inside charities, so much corruption, so many bad things happen. Yeah. But also to kind of fight back against that, you could just Google search like top 3 charities for the efficiency of giving away money. Yeah, and there are loads of sites that list that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't want to sound like I'm just like, hey, fuck anyone that's not doing this shit, because life is so fucking tough for everyone, and it's not on you to have to donate all of your money away and live like a fucking Buddhist monk, you know? Like, it's tough getting by day to day. Life is really, really, really difficult. And I do not hold any judgment for people that just need to focus on their own shit. And before you try and help everyone else, you need to be able to help yourself. It's impossible to change the world in a positive way before you change yourself in a positive way. So, do all that shit for yourself. But at the same time, I would say that if we had more conversations like this and like spoke about it from a non-judgmental but a critical point, that maybe more people might tend towards philanthropy. You know, I've always wanted a conversation with Bill Perkins, for instance. He's such a fucking incredible guy, so fucking awesome. And he has so many interesting things to say and so much insight into the world. But I've always been curious how someone like that can balance, and not just him. I don't want to just like bang because he's like fucking lovely. Like just a random rich person, how they can balance justifying, you know, spending like $300K on, I don't know, like a car or whatever, where
a plane ride
or a plane ride, or I don't know what rich people spend their money on, where that could, like, I don't know, save a couple of villages or something. Probably it's a really difficult thing. And I think what people do is they compartmentalize their knowledge of the situation and their feelings in the situation. And I think what needs to happen in the world is for those two things to cross over, and not in a way that's going to make people feel like, oh my God, I'm a terrible human being, but in a way that's going to make people think, oh, maybe I could dedicate a decent proportion of my life to helping other people, because we're so fucking lucky to be born the way we are and to live the experiences that we have. And yeah, we may suffer. Yeah, we may go through all this shit. But if you can do something to improve the world and do something for the other people out there, if you care about other people, and shout out to nihilists. If you don't care about other people, you don't think morality exists, don't worry about it, dudes. I don't mind. But if you are a compassionate person, you do want to. And here's one of the cool things. Sorry, this probably sounds a bit preachy, but one of the coolest.
I think it's interesting stuff.
Okay, cool. One of the coolest things I've learned about being human is that when you focus on being virtuous, being kind, being compassionate, being empathetic, and when that is your sole purpose, your sole motivator to do all of those things, you start to realize just how incredible life is meant to be. You start to realize everything just falls into place. Everything becomes positive and loving. The sensations I get now of pure unconditional love for people, or like very, very intense love for like my person, my partner, Hannah. Shout out to Hannah, by the way. We'll speak about Hannah if we have time. I'd love to speak about Hannah
right now. I believe she's been commenting.
Yeah, she has. Love of my life. And the experiences I've had with her, I would not have been able to have if I hadn't been absolutely focused on being a compassionate, kind, honest, loving person. It's really opened me up, and part of me doing this charity, like dedicating my life to this charity, and trust me, this isn't me being like, oh, everyone should be dedicating their lives to charity. Like, this just what really works for me. Part of it is selfish. It's selfless but selfish. It's like, hey, if I manage to do all these incredible things for people who are unconditionally loved, just like humans in general, I would feel so fucking good, beyond anything I've ever felt. Most likely. Most likely. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But it feels that way. Like when I do kind things for people, like without expecting things in return, that is for me the most engaging experience. That's when I'm really in the moment. I'm really feeling good, and everything's just like chill, you know. Everything's lovely. Everything's warm and fluffy and cloudy.
So do you think all the time you're in that moment where your first thoughts on your brain are, how can I be more compassionate, or how can I be more loving, or how can I be a better person? Do you feel like when you're sitting there and you're in autopilot mode and you sort of space out, those are the thoughts that your mind spaces out to? Or do you think that it takes active work to remind yourself to be mindful of these thoughts and to remind yourself that this is the kind of person that you want to be?
That's such a good question. So I guess it links in with something I really strongly believe in, that to be an extraordinarily kind person, one of the greatest traits you could have is to be an extraordinarily intelligent person. And also another one, which I want to see how you fall on this. I think to be an extraordinarily kind person, you need to be able to hurt people. I think there are some situations where you need to hurt people in the short term. You need to leave someone to work by themselves. You know, an example I heard today actually is in nursing homes, one of the solid rules is, if a person can do something for themselves, do not intervene. If they're struggling to like feed themselves, they're like shaking, dropping the jelly, but that you know that they can get there, you do not intervene. And that takes a fucking heart of stone. And not everyone's capable of doing that and still staying sane. So where do you think you are on the ability to hurt your friends, like in a way that's good for them? Like to tell them a brutal truth?
Well, I'm pretty blunt about my thoughts, for better or worse, unfortunately. So I sometimes say things that could be rude, for sure. Could be mean, could be interpreted that way. Yeah. And I feel like I'm saying them because I think it will help them. And I'm trying to maybe say a little bit less of that, as I had a discussion about this yesterday or the other day about this. But yeah, I don't think I have an issue saying certain things if I believe them about something or about somebody. Nice.
A really extreme example that I just thought of is when I was in a relationship with Hannah, actually, and trust me, she won't mind me saying this. She's had throughout most of her life, she's had like really strong suicidal tendencies. And at one point when she was abusing me, she's not abusive anymore. She's one of the kindest people. She's healed. She's got rid of the trauma, and it all came from people abusing her. Just kind of aside, she was very abusive to me. And one of the things she would do is like one time she threatened to kill me, and I was like, fuck it, I'm leaving. I'm going to a hotel. And then as I was leaving, she said, okay, if you go, you might find me dead though, something like that. And that was her indicating that I might come back to her dead. And she had had very, very close to suicide moments, you know, and so it was like a real threat. I would not put it past her, but that was such a stranglehold that I've seen in many abusive relationships. Or if you leave me, I'm going to hurt myself. If you walk away, I'm going to do this to myself. And one of the hardest things that I learned from that is that if someone does that to you, you have to be okay with them killing themselves. Not be okay with it to be like, oh, I'll just shrug it off, but you have to say, okay, that is your choice, because otherwise you're not gonna. I'm just gonna be under your thumb for the rest of time. We're not going to get out of this situation. The longer you put it off, the worse it will get. And when she said, hey, yeah, if you do this, I'm going to kill myself, and me having to say, okay, then I really don't want you to, but if that is what you want to do, then that is what you want to do, and that is your choice. And I trust people's autonomy that is the biggest part of autonomy, is whether you can decide whether you're going to be alive or dead. And that for me was one of the hardest things I've ever had to say to someone. And I know that it really hurt her and it really hurt me, but I'm so glad I'm now at the point that I can say that stuff. So yeah.
Damn.
Little insight.
Oof. This is still the person that you're currently with right now in a relationship? She
loved my life. And I know a lot of people out there, if they hear these shocking things, they'll be like, oh my God, run away. He's just like still in that Stockholm syndrome mindset. But I'm really, really not. I'm really good with my boundaries now. And if she says something that, like, she has multiple personality disorder. So
I know. I mean, I know a little bit more about this situation because I've watched some of the videos you put out there. So
okay, cool.
I guess like I have some insight and I have more knowledge, I suppose, than if most people, if they didn't watch these videos about that or about some of the other things you made about the relationship, then they might not know some of these things. But yeah, I mean, so I can I understand where I would be confused if I didn't know about sort of things and how you're still together or how they got to this sort of point like that.
Yeah. We're kind of like together, but she's like, I wouldn't call her my girlfriend at the moment. Like, we're allowed to date other people, but we're just choosing not to because we're just so in love with each other. But yeah, she's got multiple personality disorder, otherwise known as DID. And at first it was only specific parts of her, like some of her personalities that were being abusive. Now she's collected herself and she acts as one a lot more, even though she sometimes gets split. She still has moments where she'll get triggered by something. She'll have a flashback of memory of like her childhood abuse or anything like that. And then she'll say something like aggressive or abusive. But now we're at the point where I can just be like, okay, if that happens, I'm not going to talk to you for like a week. And then I'll come back and she'll be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I hurt you. And I'll have healed by then. By the way, have you ever tried any ceremonies like ayahuasca, peyote, tobacco? There are a bunch of others.
I have not. I'm sure
oh my God.
I have
you would fucking love it, man. You'd crush it. It's so fucking good. Like, how long have we got for the pod? I don't just like spill over with too many stories.
How long we got for the pod? I don't know. I don't even know where I have my big thing of water right here is blocking the time, so I actually don't know where we are right now. I'm just
okay. Sick.
I'm just in. I haven't looked yet. I don't know. I'm enjoying what you're saying, man. I'm enjoying the conversation, so it's okay.
Cool. So
sometimes, sometimes they go long. Once you hit a certain point, it's like who cares if it keeps going longer? It's like at this point, people that checked out, they checked out. So then the people that are left are people that are left.
That's a very good point. All right, words of wisdom. I won't worry about that. So let me disclaimer this with guys with certain medicines like LSD, magic mushrooms, and ayahuasca specifically. I can't think of too many others that are easily accessible. Only do them if you're in a very strong mindset, if you're in a very good setting, and if you're around very good people that you trust, like, that you're so comfortable with that you could like shit yourself in front of them and not blush, that level of comfort. So I did an ayahuasca ceremony. It was it was over 2 years ago now. And it's the only ayahuasca ceremony I've ever done. And I went into the ceremony so skeptical of so many of these things. And sorry, someone just said something kind of negative about Hannah in the chat, and it really like puts me off when people do that. I went, so skeptical of so many of the more esoteric metaphysical things. I thought ayahuasca was legit because I'd heard some good things from people, but I thought it was all just going to be kind of like people being delusional and tripping and not really knowing what's going on. But I was open-minded to it. So I was very hyper rational back then, like pretty hardcore atheist. I probably would have given like a 5% chance of any God existing. Actually, before I say that, in the chat, and Joey, what percentage chance would you give there to there being some kind of afterlife?
I don't know. Interesting question. I've thought about it a lot lately this year, for sure.
Getting old.
Yeah, I know, getting old for sure. I don't know. I don't really come up. I really haven't formed an opinion on if I think there is or not. I'm not set on there being something. I don't know. I don't feel strongly one way or the other about it.
So a lot of people are always like, and I can see it in the chat, people be like 0.0000001%, and it's not okay, I'm going to say this in a non-judgmental way, but a critical way. I can super understand where you're coming from, because like I've been there, I've been like super atheist, super rational. It's not smart. Like it's not a smart opinion. That is saying you're 99.99999% sure of something that you have no evidence for whatsoever. So like, I think with something that we have no evidence for, we have to start at 50-50, then use your intuition, use evidence to just like lean one way or the other. But we see so little of the world around us, and we're only in like fucking 3 dimensions, and we still only see like 5% of it in like material world. The rest of it's like dark energy, dark matter, shit that we don't even understand in our 3 dimensions that is material. Like in the quantum world as well, there's so much that we don't fucking understand. To say that you're absolutely certain of something not existing is so irrational. And I can get behind people saying that they're near certain that it does exist, because you can have evidence for something existing very, very, very easily. It's so hard to get evidence in this spot specifically for it not existing. And as well as that, people that are just like, I've got faith, I don't care about rationality, I just believe. Like, obviously that's irrational, but they're kind of admitting it. So it's like, whatever, so you do your thing. So I'm not going to say what my percentage is for that anyway, but I went into it, you know, super low percentages in that, and not believing in any of this shit. So I get to the ceremony, and I didn't really know what was going down. I hadn't prepared for it too much. I just kind of spontaneously decided to go with one of the poker masseuses that's around the EPT. Not going to say who it was. And, but I mean, the poker masseuses, man,
I knew this was going to be connected to an EPT poker masseuse, Charlie. Don't worry. I knew that's how this all happened. Okay. It's always a woman. How do we end up at an ayahuasca ceremony? It's because of a woman. How do we end up doing drugs? It's because of women. That's how it always happens. And
that's how they get you, man.
I'm not surprised to hear that it's because of an EP. Shout out to her, man. My God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm really, really good friends with quite a few of the. Did I say dealer?
Are you friends with the dealers too? I don't know.
No, it was okay. It was one of the masseuses. No, it was the masseuses. I'm really good friends with a bunch of the masseuses. I'm not going to name names.
Who isn't?
But
who doesn't want to be friends with the masseuses at the poker series, at the tournaments?
Are you asking me who it is?
No, I'm saying who doesn't want to be friends with
yeah.
I want to be. Everyone wants to be friends with the poker masseuses. Yeah.
It's actually so nice being friends with them and having like female company during the events. They're just like 15 days of sausage fests. You know, it's nice to have a balance, even if it's not a romantic thing. It's just anyway, so I go to the thing, and they tell me, first of all, guys, we're gonna walk around this place, this glorious place. It's in Glastonbury, in England, not somewhere I was expecting, but they brought the ayahuasca and the shamans over from Brazil, and everyone. When I first meet the shamans, they're fucking lovely. The guy, especially Shaman Dan, he just gives me this big, beautiful smile, and you can tell he really means it. Give me his hug. And the woman, she's like very powerful, probably your kind of woman, but probably about 40 years too old. And they say, okay, first we're going to look around this place. We're going to be sniffing out, well, not sniffing out, we're going to be checking out where feels right for you, because you're going to do your vision quest here. And I was like, the fuck's a vision quest? So I was here to do ayahuasca. It's like a 3-day retreat. Or 2.5-day retreat, or 3-day retreat, I don't know. And they were like, we'll tell you about what the vision quest is later. And I saw someone that was in the group. I was like, what is a vision quest? And they're like, man, I know ayahuasca is like one of the most potent hallucinogenics you can ever do, and it's meant to be something that's absolutely terrifying, but vision quests I find so much more scary. I was like, what the fuck's a vision quest? So I still don't find out where it is. Interestingly enough, actually, I was pretty insensitive to emotions and energies and shit like that back then. When I first saw this place and I entered this thing, I got this biggest rush of positive energy, and it felt so fucking energized. And you could rationalize it and be like, oh, you just had it because, you know, you saw the place and you're excited. But I never had that in my life. And then I found out later that they'd been doing shit to the space to make it like a really positive energy place. So I don't know if people don't believe in that shit. I don't care what you believe in, but that happened anyway. So I go back to the place where I had that first big rush of energy, and I was like, fine, doing my vision quest here. And I find out what the vision quest is, and it's you have to sit in a square. Like it's probably if you lay down on the floor and then lay down the other way and then just did the square around your snow angel, whatever you want to call it, it would probably be that big. We had to stay in there for 36 hours in that little box with only water, no food, and no time, no anything to entertain you. You're allowed to take an instrument, but I didn't have one. And you had to like lay it out with bricks and stones, and like you had to put like a thing, like a big stone or something that you found north, west, east, south. North represented your ancestors, south represented your inner child, west was femininity, I think, and east was masculinity, or the other way around, I can't remember. And they suggested that to pass time, that you should speak to those sides of you, pretend to speak to your ancestors, pretend to speak to your inner child, pretend to speak to your masculine and feminine side, which, I mean, like whether you believe in this kind of shit or not, this is an extremely, extremely powerful, that you can call it a psychological tool or a spiritual tool, to speak to those sides of you and have so much time to do it. So I'm in there, I'm like, fine, whatever. I take a little poop in the woods before we go, so I don't have to shit, because if you do shit, you have to shit and just bury it. Man.
I'm in.
Yeah, and I'd been fasting for like quite a lot before. I'd been having not much to eat because they said you had to be kind of fasting before you went. I went pretty ham on it, so I was already super hungry when we started. It was so fucking brutal. And it was so sunny as well, and I didn't bring sunblock because I didn't know we were doing this, and I have really fucking sensitive skin. So I'm covering myself with my sleeping bag, which is like burning hot, just to stop myself from getting burnt by the sun. And I finally managed to go to sleep, because I didn't really sleep the night before either. Finally managed to go to sleep at like, I don't know, like 2 p.m., maybe like 1 p.m. And I wake up about probably like 3 or 4 hours later. I don't know, because we didn't have any watches or anything. And my face is underneath the sleeping bag. The rest of my body, topless and everything, is just out. And it was so fucking painful, man. It was the worst sunburn I've ever had. I was shedding for like weeks afterwards, and it really, really kicked my ass. The way that they would describe it is probably it burning me for some stuff I've done in the past. Who knows? Who knows if karma actually exists? But, you know, I'm just saying what happened. It really, really kicked my ass. So everyone afterwards, 36 hours, I also got a really bad back cramp because I chose a place on a slant. I managed to stay in there fucking somehow. Everyone afterwards speaks about all their experiences. I was literally the only person that didn't speak, and I was like, yep, sorry, I don't want to speak about this, because I knew if I said something, I would have said something that was so skeptical of these shamans that it would have just like ruined the energy in the place and ruined the vibe. So I didn't want to say anything, because I was just ultimately dubes, meaning dubes is like my favorite word, by the way, means dubious. So anyway, to the ceremony, ayahuasca ceremony, still feeling a bit pissy. They say, hey, whose first go is it? Whose first time? It's like me and 4 other people put their hands up, and there's like 20 of us in the tent. We're told that we're going to sit in a circle. It's your own experience. You're not allowed to delve out. You're not meant to like speak to other people. It's only for you. And then if you're ready, and apparently ayahuasca will tell the shamans if you're ready for another shot of ayahuasca, or if you feel that you're ready, then you can go up to the shamans and be like, can I have another shot of it? So yeah, they pass it around. Tastes like kind of like mud, to be honest. So it's not great taste. It's not the worst. And I'm just sitting there still. I'm not pissed off, because I don't usually get pissed off about stuff. I'm just like disgruntled, because I feel like I would have had so much. I felt at the time like I would have had such a better experience if I'd been able to eat and been able to think clearly, because I just couldn't think. Looking back, I learned so fucking much from being in that vision quest and having that pain and knowing the extent that I can put my body through and loads of other stuff. I'm really glad it happened, but at the time I was like, fucking no. And then I take the shot and I'm sitting there, and I usually, when I'm thinking, have this inner monologue going through my head. Like my thoughts are usually like really articulated in actual sentences. And sorry if people are like super interested in this anyway, but I'm just going to finish anyway. And that inner monologue, I slowly realized, was turning into a dialogue. So, and I was like, wait, this has never happened before. And it was literally like I was having a conversation with myself, and I was like, wait, what's going on? And I thought, it's like, is this ayahuasca? And I just got it. Yes. I just like thought it. I couldn't stop the thought. I was like, weird. Okay. So you've incorporated yourself in my head. And I just got a yes. And then I carried on asking more and more questions, and I got a yes and a no and a maybe. And we started developing a vocabulary like probably would mean like, okay, it'd be between like 75% and 95% true based on the information I had in my head, because she couldn't tell me things. She's a feminine energy. She couldn't tell me things that were outside the realms of my own understanding, but she could tell me things that were so deeply buried inside of me in my subconscious that she could like bring it out. My personal belief anyway, and it seemed to be legit anyway. So I'll try and wrap this up. It's so that was very, very necessary for me to break through my skepticism of the whole thing, because she answered so many questions that she couldn't possibly have known, and that I couldn't possibly have known, but they were definitely true answers. That was what I needed to break through my skepticism. So I start laying down, and I'm just like, okay, I want to go deeper. I want to go deeper into this. I fully accept this as a thing. Mm-hmm. And the reason I went to the ceremony is because I wanted to work out, first of all, whether I want to be with my girlfriend, not the person I'm with now, and second of all, if I wanted to tell her that I'd cheated on her and that I'd been lying to her. Have you ever cheated on someone?
In terms of a girlfriend, like an official girlfriend?
Yep.
I mean, I think my girlfriend I dated when I was 19 would say that I did, but I was I don't know exactly what our relationship was if we were boyfriend girlfriend. But I haven't really had like many serious girlfriends to the point where I'd say we're exclusively girlfriends. But the times that I have been like that have been very rare, so I really haven't. Otherwise, I just probably wouldn't date them like that. Yeah.
Do you think you would have ended up cheating on someone if you'd been in those kind of situations back then?
What do you mean?
Like, if you put yourself in like a monogamous relationship, do you think you would have ended up cheating on them?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I'm not sure. I guess like I just wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have dated someone that I thought about. I guess, yeah, I don't know. I was really never into the idea of a monogamous exclusive relationship, because that wasn't my main focus in my life, was not that. It was more just to have fun. And I didn't see a monogamous relationship coinciding with having fun at that time in my life. And now I see it could be more fun. Yeah.
So shout out to your girlfriend, who's definitely watching right now.
I'm not saying, I don't know if she's my girlfriend or not, but we're dating.
Sorry to drop that label on you.
We're together. Listen, she'll say the same thing. I mean, 99%. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, that's a strong word. I put a lot into that word, the idea of being in an exclusive relationship with somebody. Like, yeah, that's something that is, isn't common for me. I don't just throw it around with anyone like that.
Cool. All right. Well, you did describe her as the love of your life. I'm sorry for assuming that came after girlfriend, but each to their own. So a lot of people, I think, would generally just be like, no, I would never cheat. That's like the 100%. I'd never cheat. I
can see a lot of scenarios where I wouldn't, for sure. Like, I mean, I like definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to be like a serial cheater. I cheated on basically everyone when I was younger. And I rationalized why it was okay. I rationalized why it was fine. I used to lie to everyone. And I went to the ayahuasca ceremony deciding that I wanted to work out whether I wanted to do these things. And I then started going into deeper thought of ayahuasca and started asking, okay, do I want to be with my girlfriend? And I was having real troubles bringing up the pros and cons and rationalizing things. And the reason I'm saying this, because this is something that a lot of people really struggle with. I would try and make a decision that's very emotional, very intuitive, but based on pure rationality, pure like, I want this is the pros and these are the cons, which one's heavier, which one's heavier. And I realized that I couldn't make the decision because I was trying to think of something that was beyond rationality in a rational mindset. And there are a lot of people out there that do that. Someone just called me an SJW in the chat. Super anti SJW lifestyle.
Chat, man, come on.
You're
getting distracted by the chat here.
I'll cover it up. I'll cover it up.
The chat can trigger you a little bit if you don't like the chat. I take the comments in. Some are smart, some are not, whatever.
You're a veteran ignoring.
I don't like him. I ban him. Kim Jong Joey doesn't get his nickname for not being strict.
I like that. So then, as I'm having that thought, so I'm lying down, eyes closed. I could be asleep for all the shaman knows. I get a tap on my shoe from one of the fucking shamans. It's Shaman Dan, and he's there. And before he says anything, he does this cleansing thing. He goes, puts his like cleansing feather all over me, and apparently it's meant to cleanse my energy, which always felt great. And then he stops me and he says, Charlie, you are a very, very intelligent young man, but you are young, and you must learn not to always think with your head, but think with your heart. And I was like, what the fuck? How does this guy fucking know that I was just thinking that? And that was the exact issue that I was having. I did not tell him anything about it. And there's definitely something metaphysical going on there. Not definitely, but almost definitely. Because there's just like, if it was a coincidence, it'd be beyond coincidental. Anyway, so I'm like, I was like, what? And he just walks up and goes, you know what I mean? And I was like, fuck, I do, yeah. So I go back, I start thinking about it. I start feeling, okay, what is this life like if I'm with this person, if I'm not with this person? I was like, fuck yeah, it feels so much worse when I'm not with this person. It feels worse. I've never really thought about feeling it. And now I was like, perfect, I want to be with her. And then, okay, I was like, okay, what's next? Do I want to tell her that I lied to her all the time and I cheated on her and lied to her about cheating? And I imagined a lifestyle where I hadn't told her and it felt really uncomfortable and I couldn't work out why, but I knew it felt uncomfortable. And then I imagined a lifestyle where I told her and she'd forgiven me and it felt so pure and so perfect. And I realized, I was like, yo, all right, I got to tell her. This is it. Fuck. All right, let's do it. I'm so glad I made this decision. And then I was like, fuck, I have to tell her. And I just burst out into tears. And yeah, I was an emotionless motherfucker back then, but I burst out into tears. 20 minutes, loads of other people were crying doing their own ayahuasca trips, just crying the words like, I'm so sorry, please forgive me. I'm so fucking sorry, please forgive me. And that really, really gave me such a visceral jolt up the backside and such a visceral lesson that I'm never going to forget, that I'm never going to forget not to lie to people and not to cheat on people. And yo, if there are people out there that lie to your close, I'm not a bench player, just fucking comments, man. All right. if there are people out there that if you rationalize lying to your close partners or your close friends, I guarantee it's not a good idea. What about you, Joe? Ever get through the bluffs in relationships?
What do you mean?
Do you ever lie to your partners or your close friends?
I'm sure I do. Yeah. I'm sure I don't tell them things. I don't think I outright lie and say things that I just wouldn't say it if I did.
Admitting the truth is very different to lying, you know?
Yeah.
Do you ever say something that you know to be untrue?
Not really, no.
Nice.
No.
What about like white lies?
Maybe sometimes. I don't think so though, no. Never really been that way. I think if my thing would be I might not say things, or I might not say things how I feel or say things that I think, but I don't think just outright lie and say like, oh, I mean, I don't know, like what would be an example of something somebody would lie about, you think?
I don't know if you like, I don't know, a really common example I bet is for women that are just like, oh, I don't want to have sex, I've got a headache, you know, or for men like, I'm going to stay late at work and then go out with their friends, or don't tell them if their partner's like, hey, are you feeling okay when I do this? And they're actually like furious about it, but they're like, no, it's fine. That kind of stuff. Like little lies that have good intention, but I think a lot of people justify doing them because they have good intention. But I think overall it creates this certain level of distrust. You can't quite put your finger on it, but it's really not okay. And I would say if you're in a long-term relationship with a friend or a partner, try and correct every single important lie that you can think of and be like, okay, from now on, I'm just going to be completely honest, because the relationship you have when you have absolute trust, and it's not like, even if they never catch you, sometimes their intuition will just pick up on it. You know, some people are really fucking good at it. I mean, like poker players, you're probably so sick at it. Do you reckon you got a good indicator of how good people are at lying?
Yes. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, definitely. I think that's what makes people great at poker, is they can pick up on when people are being deceitful with their patterns or with their actions. And I think a lot of people have patterns, whether they know it or they don't know it. I think at poker and at life too, and the way they say things and do things is Yeah, I can certainly. I mean, how you can never know 100% for sure on some things if someone's lying or someone's not. And honestly, I don't really care if someone's lying a lot of times if about a lot of things I discuss. And I think you mentioned like, do I lie to my friends or people I talk to? I don't really talk to people often, so most of the time
Really?
I spend is talking to myself. So yeah, I probably lie to myself a lot all the time. I'm sure I do. Like I just don't think about things or I put it off to the side. But in terms of like when I talk with other people, if I guess I've never really done those type of things where if like a little white lie or kind of moments like that. I don't think I have. I'm sure I have at some point in time. But someone mentioned lie about poker results. I actually remember this when I was younger and 21. I used to go to the Majestic Star Casino in Hammond, Indiana, or Gary or wherever the hell it's at, and lose all my money. And my friend would say, "Oh, how'd you lose money?" I'm like, top set again.
Yeah, I used to do that shit as well, man. I used to always be like, "Yep, ace is under ace king. What can you do?"
Yeah, I was like embarrassed. I'm like, this motherfucker's got aces every time. Really, like I launched off with third pair. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, like that's I think about that, and I think I know I certainly used to do that, but I think if I'm gonna not want to tell someone something, I usually word it in a way where I'm letting them know I'm not telling you something, but I'm just not telling you what I'm not telling you, and it's just kind of like that. So
yeah, you're lucky that I mean, even if you want to withhold information, you're good. You're like confident enough to be able to say it. Whereas a lot of people don't have that. So, do your regular listeners, will they know this side of you? Will they know that you don't speak to that many people? That you're like humble and honest and
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm honest. That's the thing. Like, I mean, people say like, "Oh, you're real, you're honest." I go, first of all, I don't think I'm that honest. I don't think I'm that real. I think I keep a lot of things in that I'm in a perfect world I would tell or I would talk about or I would discuss. And in terms of like being real, they say you're like real about. I'm real about a lot of things I have related to poker. I'm real about those thoughts and those ideas. But in terms of like who I am as a person or anything like that, I'm figuring these things out myself. I don't even fucking know what they are, so I can't be that real and that honest if I don't even know what the hell these things are or what they mean or how I feel or how I think. So, I feel like when people say that about me, it kind of makes me uncomfortable because I don't think that necessarily classifies as myself.
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess you have a different definition of honesty than what most people might use. Like your definition of honesty is more like speaking your own truth, whereas a lot of other people's definition of honesty would be like speaking the truth to the best of your ability, or like not lying and not deceiving or anything like that, because you might be trying to speak your own truth to the best of your ability, but you're saying like, if you don't understand yourself fully, then how can you do that? How can you be honest?
Yeah, exactly. That's sort of where I come from with things. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, if I can't understand myself, how can I speak what I mean, I don't know. I feel like poker and getting great at poker is all about deception. It's all about manipulation. It's about exploitation. And I know I am great at manipulation, at exploitation, and about deception, because that's how I'm great at poker, is because I'm great at those characteristics and things and disguising my patterns to make it where you can't know what I'm doing. Like that's what makes people great at poker. So to say that I'm not great at those things in my real life, that just can't be true. I have to be great at those things because I can't just be great at them at poker and say they don't carry over to my life. They just have to, because I think a lot of the things that make me great at poker or made me great at poker or continue to are things that also apply to all parts of my other life. And I don't separate the two. I think they go together for me.
Yeah, super interesting. I really do try and compartmentalize the two. I'm different to you there. Poker is such a place for your vices, for the bad things inside people, where you have to be predatory, you have to kind of enjoy taking other people's money, you have to lie, you have to be manipulative, all these things. And I fucking love lying and manipulating. But I do not do it anymore. I've had my ass kicked by too many plant medicines, by too many years of depression, of having a heartbreak, shit like that. Oh, just the end to that story, by the way. I was going to tell my partner that I cheated on her, and I did tell her, and then she broke up with me, and yeah, I was depressed for whole year, like really depressed. But anyway, so that kicked my ass, and that was definitely a lesson really heavily learned not to lie ever to partners. But I really try not to let that enjoyment of manipulation and stuff seep into my actual lifestyle now, because I think that there are some really toxic things that poker players do to win at poker. But I think as soon as it starts coming out into other areas, that's probably no bueno.
Yeah, I don't think it is. I mean, I don't know. I start thinking about the idea of being a good or bad person, and how do you decide to be a good or bad person? A lot of times by how you grew up, or who taught you things, or how did you learn things? And Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure I was raised to be a good person. I don't think growing up in America and growing up around the family I have and the way that I perceive to be what success was and making money and becoming rich, becoming famous. Like, those are things you're sort of taught to become in America. And those are things I always thought was how to do life. Like, those mattered the most. It wasn't like being a nice person or being a good person. It was becoming rich or becoming successful or becoming whatever, like something of that sort of design. And then people are proud of you because of that. People look up to you because you're this. People, all these things that come with that. That's how I grew up in terms of, in my world, was looking up to people like that and thinking that is what success meant. And that's what I should try to shoot for. That's what I should try to aim for. And I think with poker, I found something of that nature that I could do. And then as I get older, I'm like, oh my God, why was that desire? Like, why was that a success? Why wasn't I taught to be nice or be this or be that by people around me when I grew up? Why wasn't I taught to think a certain way around the people I grew up at? Like, how else was I supposed to learn these things if I didn't have anybody to teach me these things as I grew up? And then you start, you try to evolve and adjust from there. And I think that's the point I'm at now, where I'm trying to getting rid of all these things I grew up with, thinking about and thinking about life and thinking about being as a type of person I was or am, and figuring out what the hell I want to be moving forward.
And yet again, I think that's just a spot where, like, if your listeners are listening, listen to that again, because that's such a fucking huge thing within poker. Like, people started treating me so differently when I'd started being successful at poker. Like, not everyone, but like almost everyone. And it's really hard to get rid of that thing, because there's this whole, it's like evolutionarily designed for us to look up to people that have like higher status, more money, more power, whatever. Right. But at the same time, like, we don't want that. Like, it's everyone, or almost everyone, wants to be happy, wants to be good, wants to have a fulfilling life, wants to have meaning to life, any of these things. And we know from statistics that money doesn't make you happy. It can make you happy. It can give you the opportunities to go out and do other shit that can make you happy. But just only wanting money and looking up to people that have money and looking up to people that have these lavish lifestyles, that is, you're giving yourself a very difficult path on a way to happiness if that is your goalpost.
Right. I mean, that's what I grew up thinking happiness was. That's what makes you happy is getting those things and achieving those things. And that's what fueled me and drove me and really motivated me once I finally found something that I thought I could achieve those things in.
How do you feel about America in general? It's a really vague question.
Man. Yeah.
There's such a specific type of brainwashing going on in America, not for everyone, and it's really state specific, blah, 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 blah. And everyone in the world is brainwashed to some extent, but there's something really particular. I don't know how to put it into words because I haven't really expressed it before. What do you think it is?
I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways in America. I mean, these are things I've been mainly watching and reading and studying this year, is just the idea of what America is, and a lot of thoughts I really haven't articulated very often because I just don't talk about them with many people. But yeah, I know. I think growing up in America, you're sort of programmed and designed to sort of chase money and chase the idea of going to college and going in debt and then getting a career that you hate and then working for this sort of like ultimate. I feel like it just all trickles up to the top, where whoever's the people that are in charge are basically are able to brainwash you through food and through the music and through the movies and through what they decide is news and what they decide is important. I mean, you look at rap music in general, like rap music is all, it's just about fucking bitches, doing drugs, fucking this guy's girl, killing this guy. Like, it's just, I mean, you really think about it, it's fucking crazy. Like, this is the message they're giving to all the people are like that listen to that music. This is the music I grew up listening to. Like, okay, well, why do I think these things? Well, like, all the music I'm listening to is like, fuck this bitch, fuck her friend, fuck her mom, fuck the dad, fuck her brother, fuck your friends. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. And you're like, oh my God. Okay. Like
some high level rap lyrics.
Right, like this is the music, right? Okay. And obviously this isn't, you don't have to listen to it, but a lot of people listen to it. This is just music I have enjoyed listening to, and I still enjoy listening to. And you can't say that doesn't have some sort of big impact on the type of mind that you have if you're consuming this type of content on a daily basis. And I think that's just one area where people that grow up in America, like they are being fed this on a consistent basis. And how can you get away from that if that's all you listen to and that's all you know and that's what you're raised and that's what your family and your friends listen to and put into your mind? And in terms of like how the structure works and who's pulling the strings or who's in control of everything, I have no idea about that, but I do think that it's probably something I'm going to get away from at some point in time, and I'll probably move out of move out of America at some point in time.
I think that might be it. I think that. Ow! I just lit the lighter on my hand. I think that it's kind of funny that America's land of the free, but at the same time, the propaganda machine is so fucking powerful, and the things that you just mentioned, the media, like news being really selective, being like censorship happening, like other shit going on, and everyone just getting fed the same bullshit. How can you have true freedom if the things that you think and the things that you listen to, the news that you listen to, the food that you eat is all designed to turn you into a mindless drone? And that's what it is. Like societies, they're designed to turn you into a worker. They tell you have to eat 3 meals a day, get 8 hours sleep every night. And the reason for that is so you can wake up and work a 9 to 5, because we are not fucking evolved to get 8 hours sleep a night. We are not, because we're meant to be like sleeping in a cave, getting 5, and maybe sleeping during the day. And, oh, I've got to run away from this mammoth and shit like that. We're meant to have a choppy lifestyle. And they give us all these luxury gifts, tell us that our lives are so much better, and then say, hey, all you need to do to get this amazing life is just work, get rich, and then you've made it. You've made it the dream. You've made it happen. And then everyone that makes it is like, oh, shit, that's not actually what I want at all. Or they carry on doing it and they never really get that true happiness. And people that don't make it are just really sad because they didn't fucking make it. And what do you, all right, this is going to be super controversial. And I just want to say it to people, just because people have different opinions to you doesn't mean you have to hate them. But you could try and be non-judgmental. All right. So what do you think of the American army?
I don't really have many thoughts about the army. I haven't.
Yeah, you do. Go on.
Not really. No. I mean, if I did, I don't really have any thoughts about it. I think that's how America perceives themselves to have to be or they think they need a strong army to rule the world, and whoever's in charge of America thinks that's, I mean, I don't know. It makes sense. Like I can understand where the leaders are coming from, whoever makes the decisions. And yeah, I think that, yeah, I don't know. I haven't really thought much about the army or anything like that.
So I just want to clarify so it doesn't sound like I'm hating on soldiers. I think soldiers, some of the bravest people ever to have existed. The shit you have to go through as a soldier, oh my fucking god, it sounds so fucking traumatic, like literally traumatic, because PTSD and things exist. But one interesting thing I could say about it, or hopefully interesting to people, is that a lot of the reason soldiers get PTSD isn't because something terrible to them has happened, not because they like lost a friend, but because they have done something so terrible. Like, I don't know, like shooting someone that's sitting there not doing anything, shooting a civilian, like beating around people because they get lost in the moment of like, these the enemy, and like torturing people or anything like that. And then having to come home and reconcile the fact that they did all these things. Because you don't hear about a lot of them. Like there have been some scandals released of like, oh, soldiers ended up doing this to people, and oh, they ended up doing this. And these are like normal ass people. And they go there, they do these terrible things, they come back and they have to live a life and like, fuck, I was literally kicking this guy in the face, like pissing on his hair or whatever, and now I have to realize that that's me. And I guess it's something that I think about a lot. Is I feel very comfortable around people that, I wrote a Facebook status about this a couple months ago. I feel very comfortable around people that have experienced what it's like to be a terrible person, to experience what it's like to be malicious, nefarious, with intent to want to hurt people, because then at least they're in touch with that side of them, which is in every single one of us. Mm-hmm. They're in touch with that side of them that has the potential to, shit on someone's lap because they're from the wrong country. I'm not saying everyone would do that specific thing, but you're like, it's in you.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm very, very critical of things like the American army. But I guess probably not going to get too into that now because I don't want to piss people off. But yeah, think of a different thing to ask you.
They're all getting upset, Charlotte. They're getting pissed off right now. I mean, listen, if they've been listening for this long, man, like I think they're getting that mad. Hopefully they tune off long. Like, this guy's making me mad. I'm gonna keep listening to him for 3 hours. I'm not gonna turn this guy out. I'm gonna keep listening to what this guy has to say. I mean, I think that's when you talk about what makes someone interesting and what makes somebody a person you want to listen to. I think it's these sorts of opinions or these sorts of viewpoints, whether you agree with them or you don't agree with them. That's what makes that's what makes certain people more fascinating or interesting, or I guess polarized too, right?
Yeah. And I'm definitely, I don't want to speak too much about the army thing just because I don't know enough about it to be able to be like an expert opinion on it. And it's such a difficult subject to speak about. So I'm not going to broach that one super heavy, but let's go somewhere else. Do you have any opinions that if you told other people, or any beliefs that if you told other people, they'd be like, you're fucking crazy? Do you believe any like supernatural, paranormal?
I'm sure I would, but I probably won't be talking about them on this podcast. So
Oh God!
Them, you know? I actually think about that question a lot. I'm sure there are some things that if I said that I thought people would be like, "Oh, you're crazy," but it's more things I'm trying to figure out, not necessarily like these concrete ideas, especially conspiracy theories. I love conspiracy theories. I love
the conspiracy theories. They're so
I like
funny.
the idea of the Illuminati. I love the idea of the Illuminati.
The Illuminati.
One of my favorite conspiracy theories. So, but I don't have to talk
Cabal.
about that kind of stuff. You sound like a fucking psych. You sound like a sane person. I mean, it's very polarizing once again if you sort of bring those things up. And I think from a strategic standpoint, in my idea of what strategy is, I'd rather not talk about those things. So
yeah. I remember I didn't get too sucked into many of the conspiracy theories because most of them like, well, if they are true, then like whatever. But one of them I did like a day of research on. I got super into it. That was the 9/11 one, and man, that's so fucking polarizing for people, and I do not understand why. Like at best, you're like the government justified a very unjustifiable war based on the 9/11 attacks. But like I looked it all up and I was like, actually seems like there probably was like something really dodgy going on behind the scenes, probably based on this and this and this and this. I'm not going to shout about it off the rooftops. And I mentioned it on Facebook. I was like, oh, by the way, I came to this conclusion. I'm not going to say who, but one of the top poker players just lost his shit at me. He's like, so fucking dumb that people believe in this kind of shit. So silly. If you get sucked into this, you're just another monster. And it's like, yeah, that's a good lesson for me not to mention that to certain people.
I mean, you can mention it. I mean, you're going to get comments like that, of course, when you talk about certain topics like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just have to be ready to deal with it.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, I
spent hours on that. I've watched every 9/11 documentary. I have my opinion of what happened with 9/11, but at the same time, I can understand where someone like that's coming from that hasn't read that same thing, or they've interpreted the information differently, and who's around them or what they've read or how they feel about America as a country too. So I can see both sides being true or being some sort of in between in terms of a conspiracy or in terms of it happening exactly how they said it happened. So, I can honestly see it falling anywhere on the spectrum. I don't know how.
There's the Joey on the fence that we know.
What do I know about? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But what do I fucking know? I'm not a goddamn building expert or a fucking terrorism expert. Who do I don't know anything. like I know if we're talking about pot limit Omaha once again or poker, I spent my life doing this. Yes, I know a lot about that. But if we're talking about buildings and war, and I don't know shit about that stuff. I know what I know is I watch YouTube videos. I read what other people say, who these people are. I don't know the fuck they are. Yeah. So I don't know if their words are true or what their words are saying. I just know the way that they're telling the story, the way that they're editing the videos, and the way that they're telling me what they want me to believe. So then that, it's like I don't know. Who do you believe more, I guess? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'm super with you on it. And I just find it more entertaining than anything. Like it happened, it was terrible, but you can't do anything about it now.
Yeah. I don't think you can. Actually, but you mentioned the news and you mentioned the news being controlled. And I actually think about that from a poker standpoint, in that I can have a control on what the news is in poker in a lot of ways. And that if I want to keep harping on a story about like ACR, about how fucking out of line and how you should never play on the site, I can choose to harp on ACR, and now more people know about America's Card Room. Or if I want to talk about PokerStars giving away packages for the PokerStars player, whatever the hell that thing's called, PCS, I'm not even sure what it's called. But if I want to talk about them giving away 300 packages to random players whom sometimes some of them knit scarves, I could have that become a story and become the narrative and keep saying that to the point where it changes opinion about what PokerStars is potentially. If I want to talk about more rake is better every single week, well, now I can potentially have if I want it to just be drama, if I want all my content to be about angle shooters and slow rollers, well, that's all my content can be. If I want it to be I could be If I want it to be growth topics, I have a choice on what the poker community consumes. Not all of them, but some of them, what they consume in terms of what they consider news. So I try to take that a little bit seriously. when I think more about that in terms of topics, in terms of discussion, because I don't want it to be this thing where it's just drama and it's this mindless fucking content that is just very surface level and gossipy and this and that. And that's why I try to make my podcast a certain way. And that's why I try to make the things I say in videos a certain kind of a way. And that's why I try not to be too harsh on people who might be angle shooters or have a video or wherever like that. I try not to go too hard on them.
This all sounds like a giant bang bang to Doug. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's his approach. I don't give a fuck what his approach is. Like, I'm not going to do things like Doug doesn't know, but if your goal is one thing, well, then my goal is different than what Doug's goal is. Doug's goal is to have millions of views, is to build his business, to have his business be as successful as it can be. And YouTube is for him is to filter people into his business, to grow his brand. And how do you grow your brand to be the biggest it can possibly be, which is how you become the best you can be at poker, how you can make the most money. And his approach and his strategy is not the same as mine. My goal is not to become the biggest person in poker. My goal isn't to become the most famous or become the most well-known or get the most views, because if I was doing that, I would take a different strategy. Like, I know what the strategy is to take because I've seen it happen. I know what works. I know what doesn't, but that's not what my goals and what things are. But I don't have an issue if that's what your goal and your desire is, because that's what his goals and desires have been. His goal isn't necessarily the other way. I'm sure he wants to mix in some of that stuff too, but his main goal is to appeal to the mass number of people that he can appeal to.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you, and like I don't like dislike him or anything for having that approach to it, but I would be very, very critical of it and say that it's one of the shitty things about capitalism is that the incentives are so misaligned. And like, I think capitalism is probably the best system we're going to get for now, at least. But one of the downsides of it is that for businesses and to be successful at capitalism, you have to be trying to make money, not you have to be trying to give out a good product or something that's going to be helpful for people. And that is one of the huge pitfalls of like society in general. And I think that I'm with you. Like, whatever I do, I want to be doing it with the customer or the person or the listener in mind. And I want to be doing it coming from like the purest place, because that will bring me the most satisfaction. And also in the charity world, that's kind of like the point. But when people do it from the side of just trying to make money, and you can tell that they're doing things like, I don't know, like spreading drama and trolling people just for like views and lols and clicks and shares and shit like that, I honestly think we should push back again as a community. I think it brings this really, like, I'm going to use the word energy really vaguely, because like, in my opinion, that's actually the best word to use for this, but it brings a weird energy to the poker world. Because when people who are on the outskirts of the poker world look into the poker world and they see that'll give them some kind of visceral emotional reaction. They'll say, oh, they're just trolling each other. Oh, this person, Alec Carrel, is on the news today again and again and again. That double A, you gotta love them. So that energy that's brought to the poker world, I think, is a really bad thing, not just for the poker community, like growing and expanding, but also for the people that are watching it as well. They're suddenly going to become more trolly. They get more hateful. They start hating on Alec. And that hate is stored inside of them. That trollness is stored inside of them, and it comes out in other aspects of life that they're not even aware of. And I would say that Doug's doing it on such a, and not just Doug, but other people as well, but especially Doug, because he's just so good at it and so entertaining, and so like he draws people in with his charisma. He's doing it on such a large scale that he's bringing a hell of a lot of negativity to the world. You know, he's saying, hey guys, I'm this person that you really, really look up to. I've achieved all these things you want to achieve. And by the way, I also troll people 24/7. That's not cool. You know, like I'm not going to be like, fuck Doug, I hate it when he does that. But I am going to be like, guys, we should probably try to pressure him not to do that. Maybe like he's doing a negative EV moral thing for poker and for people in the world and shit like that. And I guess I feel like people not ought to be or not should, because it's like up to, like, I super respect that you just don't get involved in that kind of stuff and you're just like kind of above it all. Not that you would describe it like that, but kind of are. But at the same time, I think that the people who want to speak about that should speak about it, because and should try and get a platform for it and just be like, hey, we don't think this is acceptable. We don't like the kind of shit that you're bringing to the poker world. We don't like negativity. We don't like the way that you get 100,000 people to hate on one person at a time, whether it's going to be like Negreanu, Alec Torelli, Scott Seager, like whoever it is, just because you happen to have some beef with him. We don't like that you spread GTO, say no to GTO, and all of that shit is just like, oh man, I've gone on too many rants about it already on Doug already, but I think that people underestimate exactly how much negativity is being brought into when you say, hey, I, as you know, having a huge following, condone and encourage being a dick to people, to 200,000 people. Like that is just all the ripples. They're just fucking everywhere, man.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that too. I can also see that that's what's popular. That's what people want to watch. That's what gets the views, and that's what the YouTube is about. If you're going to do YouTube, for some people, it's about views. It's about, like, that's what they care about in every genre. And I mean, I take a look at myself. I watch the NBA. The NBA, the news and the drama that they focus on these stories. If you were an NBA fan, you'd be like, holy fuck, all they do is focus on these things. Like they do what Doug does times a million. Like that's all what this media, and I love it. I love the NBA. I love the drama. I love seeing people develop. I love seeing all these different angles of things I really enjoy about sports. And I like to watch sports. I like NBA. I like the NFL. And I think that's what promotes the game, and people really pay attention to that. And then you talk about what promotes the game, and that kind of stuff does promote the game. Whether it promotes it in a positive or negative way is going to be up for interpretation from individual people who consume that content. But having Doug make videos and them get 60 million views or 50 million views, that's ultimately going to bring more people into poker, whether they're positive or negative. So we talk about growing the game, and maybe we say we only want to grow it from this what we perceive to be a positive standpoint. But I can tell you right now, people don't necessarily care that much about that stuff. Like they connect with negativity. They relate more with negativity. They connect with drama. They like to see drama more. If I do a video on Men the Fucking Master being an angle shooter, that's going to get 4 to 5 to 6 times the amount of views as something positive. And how do I know that? Because I do these videos. I do these things. And of course, it comes down to how I package it as well, too. That's going to matter. And it comes up to how I present myself in terms of if I'm making a video about, okay, how to get better at this subject. Well, if I haven't packaged myself, or if I haven't promoted myself as someone who's very knowledgeable about getting better at this subject, well, then why are people going to listen to that? But if I package yourself as someone who's more of of what's happening in poker, and then you talk about what's happening in poker, and one of those things happens to be something that gets people emotional, like an angle shooter, well, of course, they're going to consume that more because that's how I packaged myself and presented myself to be. So I think in terms of when you think about what's popular, what's not popular, and should we be positive or should we be negative, I think in a perfect world, right, we'd do that, but then we would talk about why is the game suffering, or why is not more people playing the game, and maybe it wouldn't be that way. But for my interpretation on what engages people the most in poker, the negativity engages them, the dramatic things engage them. So if you're saying I want to get my engagement, that's what's good at this game, the game being marketing, content, or YouTube or whatever. If that's what your goal is, engagement, and that's what we're led to believe is success, well, then if you're going to go where that's at, and I can't say like this is a bad person because they choose to employ the strategy. It's just a game. Like poker's a game to me. Poker's a game. Content's a game. YouTube's a game. That's a game. And you know, some people don't necessarily care as much about that, putting that type of energy out there. Like you said, like I mean, I try to care, but even me, sometimes I still go towards the dramatic stuff because I know that's what people want to see. So should I give them what they want to see? Should I give them what I think they want to see? Should I give them what I think they should see? That's a debate that I have internally all the time in terms of when it comes to creating content. So, you know, but I can't say I'm perfect. I made a video about the worst angle of all time, potentially with Armenian Mike. That got 175,000 views.
What was that, the fake bet thing?
Right. Exactly. The joke bet.
So funny.
Right. Like, but so now I know that's a story. I can make a video about that. What's it going to do? It's going to make people hate Armenian Mike. I'm aware of this. So I'm going into the video. I know he's going to get backlash. I know it's going to get people fired up. I know it's going to educate people for how to handle a situation like that. I know it's going to educate people on this thing being possible. I know it's going to be popular. So many people are going to watch it. People are going to have eyeballs on it. I know it's going to promote Live at the Bike. I know it's going to promote Ryan Feldman, who I'm friends with, who I want to do well because I think he does a good product. So there's all these things that you weigh on the table. Okay, well, I know it's going to get some negativity. I know it's going to promote a potential negative issue, but it's going to do these positive things. And then that's ultimately on me to decide, do I want to do that kind of content or not? But some people are going to say that video is a negative video and it's spreading negativity around. But
Okay.
I'm coming from this standpoint, they come from that standpoint. Who's right or who's wrong about it is going to be up for interpretation. But I think Doug has that same thing when he's thinking about something. If he's thinking about trolling someone, if he doesn't like them, if he whatever. In his mind, he has these positives and negatives. In his mind, it's positive for this reason. So he chooses to do it. And other people don't. And you're right. We have a right to be critical of that. As someone who has a lot of power and influence in a community that we're a part of, it's obviously our right to be critical of that and to voice our approval or disapproval. And then people agree or they don't agree, or the person that sees it agrees or doesn't agree. And then Doug will see this and then he'll be like, oh, maybe he's right. Maybe he's wrong, whatever. So I think you're doing what you can in this situation and trying to influence Doug to potentially be in a different way. And it's up to him to decide if he wants to do it. And it's up to other people to decide if they want to consume it or not, or watch it or not.
Yeah, you've definitely changed my mind on this a bit. I think I was approaching the situation with not as much nuance as I could. I'm still definitely in the mindset of, I do not think it's okay to spread hate or negativity in mass amounts. I think just the amount of people that are going to be affected by that, it may be better for the poker community. This is something I probably underestimated, but it probably is way better for the poker community in some spots to be negative and to get those clicks. But for the world and for affecting the world and like making kindness instead of anger, making acceptance instead of trolling or judgment, I think it's still a huge net negative. And I guess it's, yeah, you're right. It's just up to the person of what kind of person they want to be. But so like with the joke bet thing, do you think that you may have been able to find a way to make that video as viral as it was, but still like condemning his actions, but not sending hate as much in his direction?
Well,
obviously some people
that's what I did in the video. But even when I do that in the video, because I know what the reaction is going to be when that's something like that happens, it's like, this guy's the biggest piece of shit of all. That's what people say. Like, I just know that's what comes. And there are still comments. I've had to delete a lot of comments in that video because a lot of them are just fucking mean. I'm like, I just let me delete these. It's not even to me. It's to what's happening in the hand, or the floor man, or Ryan, or Armenian Mike. So I just delete a lot of those comments in there, and some are still out there, I'm sure too. But yeah, I mean, I think I try to present it in a certain way that's not going to have people that hateful. And even with Men the Master, it's the same thing. I'm like, I know this is going to make this dude look really bad, but it's but yeah, I never really hated on him. I never hated on Mike. I never hated on either one. And that's how I try to present it. So that's what I can do. But maybe everyone doesn't try to present it that way, but that's how I try to present it.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like super optimal then, especially if you're deleting comments. That's like next level caring about it. So that's super cool. And that is maybe like the optimal way to go about it, because there do need to be examples of bad behavior getting caught out, and like, nefarious behaviors getting caught out. And it's unfortunate that it has to be a person on the other end of it, because, we all do bad things. We all make mistakes. We all do dumb stuff. But if you can minimize the amount of hate going towards him while still giving an example of like, hey, we do not allow this in poker. And I think that's super fine. And like, it's the same for like the Negreanu thing, like the more rake is better thing. I don't know whether he said it. I think he did. And I can totally see where Doug would justify it to himself and being like, we need to call him out for this bullshit, because it looks like it was kind of bullshit what he was saying. But to like hammer on about it, like in every single other video that you make, and just like trolling him to that extent, as hilarious, fucking funny as it is. Oh my God, it's so funny the way he does it. So funny. I cannot get over it, how funny it is. I watch every single one. I'm just like, I shouldn't be watching this, but oh my God. But I don't think we should be doing it. I don't think that spreading is like, it's good to make people laugh, but it's not good to make people laugh at someone. It's like, that's not a good thing that I'm doing, laughing at Daniel's misery and laughing at his misfortune and laughing at him getting trolled. But at the same time, it's a difficult one, because like you do want to call them out, but just try to do a Joey. Do Sensei Joey's idea, Doug, if you're watching.
I will listen. I wouldn't say I'm Sensei anything. I mean, we look at we look at what's popular. I don't know. We look at who does YouTube better, right?
That's what a sensei would say, man. That's what sensei say.
Doug does it better. He gets more views, right? Like, I mean, that's what most people are going to see. So the perception is that, oh, Doug does it better because he's positioned himself. He's built his brand, built himself to be a certain type of person that takes shot at people, that creates drama, that presents a high level of strategy in his videos and presents it in a very concise way based on knowledge that he's gained over the years at poker and becoming an expert at poker. So the way that he's positioned himself and the content he creates and the quality that goes into that content is a lot of people would say is much better and much different than how I might do it or what my strategy might be or how I might present myself, sort of thing like that. And most people's perception of success is going to say that that is a more successful approach. So why wouldn't I do that? And how do I know that? Is because that's what people tell me all the time. They say, oh, why don't you do more things like this? If you want to have more views, if you want, I'm like, listen, I don't really, it's never been my priority. Anytime I prioritize that, I've been unhappy with creating content. So that's not how I choose to do things. And I know I could make better videos on a production level. I know, but I like making them myself. I know I could do different topics that'd be more popular, but I like fucking just doing it however I want to do it. That's what I've personally enjoyed doing it. So, and that's like I said, this is a conversation I always think about. And someone said he's a marketing genius. Doug's a marketing genius. I think Doug is. I think Doug's great at a lot of different things for sure. Content. He's great at surrounding people around him that help him out, that help promote him. He's good at advertising himself. He's good at spending money on advertising himself. He's good at leveraging the knowledge of people around him and the knowledge of that he has himself. He's good at knowing what people want because he's always been a big poker fan. And he's good at finding what works and then really doubling and tripling down on that strategy and taking advantage of it to the fullest. And he stumbled on some strategies of creating content that really, really, really worked out. And he just doubled, tripled all the way down on it, combined with leveraging the type of personality he has and leveraging the ability he has for poker and all these different things. And it creates this perfect storm of things where voila, that's what ended up happening. And I mean, yeah, it's impressive on a lot of levels, sure, but it's super impressive. Right. On other ways, you say, oh well, like whatever. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a decision you have as a content creator. And luckily in poker, we don't have many people who do things like that, but we see things a lot like that in other genres. If you pay attention to Fortnite or pay attention to the fucking video bloggers and the news, mainstream YouTube news guys and this Doug strategy is what the strategy a lot of people use in a lot of other genres, and it works extremely well. And that's why people use it, because their goal is to be popular and have views.
I actually think it's slowly going to die. And like, so for instance, like mainstream news media on TV is dying, absolutely dying. All the tabloids and newspapers dying.
Maybe in our world, but I think it's at some point it will, right? When the older people that don't consume content filter away, but it's still we just don't talk to these people who matter, like my parents, my family, the people in the Midwest back home. They are not a part of any of this shit we're talking about right now. I don't know what the fuck we're even saying right now, but they are all about the news and CNN and everything that they read.
They are like, this is a fact. They are dying. Like they're really, really trying to get their last dying breaths out. And it's interesting to see the tactics they're going to now. They're going to such huge extremes to try and get clickbait, to try and get people watch, but it's exactly what's killed them in the first place. And it's opened this whole area up for like long form talks. Like, I don't know if you watch like Joey Ingram's talks or like any of the public intellectuals that are going around with the intellectual dark web. People are craving that kind of shit. And I think that even though it's not happening so much in other areas yet, I think it will all start trickling like that, because we're in such the infancy of the internet, and it's all going in that direction. It's all going with people kind of sniffing out the bullshit and being like, oh, okay, maybe it's not that, and maybe we should do that. And I think eventually the incentives for businesses will be to give the best user experience and best content and most honest content and most like content that's going to benefit people's lives possible. At the moment, it's still in that era where like, yeah, clickbait and shit works, you know? Like there's that fight that's going on at the moment between two, like KSI and Logan Paul. I don't know if you watch YouTube shit.
I've been keeping up a little bit with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I only know about it because the referee / commentator is a guy that I'm friends with, True Geordie, who, if anyone hasn't seen True Geordie podcast, well, that's so fucking good. But yeah, that kind of shit, for instance, it's still it's so popular. And I'm not sure if that's ever going to die. I really hope that kind of stuff does die, because that is spreading so much hate. It's just one side and another side being like, fuck you.
One more bathroom because I've pretty much drank all this water right here. So one more bathroom and then we'll come back to that. Let's touch on this. Shane says traditional cable as a medium will die out. I don't know if mainstream news is a concept will.
Yeah,
let's leave it at that. What you just said though.
I super agree with that, and I think that mainstream news is probably the wrong word for me to use there. I think that news in terms of like tabloid newspapers and TV, I think that's all going to die because the incentives just so misaligned there. Like they have to be making money, so they have to put in advertisements. American advertisements, guys, is so fucking crazy. It's every like 5 or 10 minutes. I had no idea until I went to America. And it's not even like they're changing the advertisement parameters. It's just the same things over and over and over again. I'm so confused by it. Oh my God. All right. Bink says, Charlie, why are you not a Ben Shapiro fan? Okay. I'm a fan of his, as in like, I think he's fucking awesome to watch. I just disagree with almost everything that he says. And I think he's doing some really like.
Who are you talking about right now?
Ben Shapiro. I don't know if you know him.
I don't know much about him.
Yeah, it's so good. I did a YouTube video on, shout out to my YouTube, by the way. My YouTube, I don't usually like shouting out my social media, but I fucking love it when people watch my YouTube videos, comment on them, get into debates with me, message me about that shit. Cause the topics are pretty like deep topics. And then when people message me, the amount of like personal stuff that spills out of people's mouths being like, oh my God, this is happening to me. I can so relate to what you said. It's so fucking touching. And it's also so intellectually stimulating. Fucking go subscribe to my YouTube, guys. Go on. I dare you.
Charlie, what's your username on YouTube so that way people can search for you?
Charlie Carroll. Yeah.
Yeah, what a question that was by me. Who would have figured it out?
Such a top tier podcaster, man.
Search his name, you'll find his channel, Joey. Oh, I know. Now I thought about that. I'm like, oh, what's your YouTube?
Smart.
Is it like Jimbo8715? No, it's your fucking name. Okay. All right. By the way, shout out to my man Matt Berkey. I saw him a couple times in the comment, and Christian Soto out there in the chat too. Congrats, Christian, on your 5th place finish in the tournament out there. I just found out you have another name for a last name too. Shout out to me. And Berkey just proposed a couple cool ideas. I was gonna say you and Berkey would really like talking to each other because you guys both have a very similar idea on how learning in poker is currently inefficient and how the current model is not GTO, and that's why he started his site solve4ydtv.academy.
Oh, is he done one as well? Okay, so like I'm
Matt. I feel bad because I thought it was solve4y.tv, and Matt told me it's not. It's TV solve4y.academy or something like that. So you have to just Google solve4y.
Do your own research, guys.
Check out Matt's site. I was saying it wrong the entire. We just did a podcast. I said it wrong the entire time. I felt terrible afterwards.
He didn't correct you?
Not at the end, he did.
Oh no, too polite.
I was like, nice. Bro, why didn't you just tell me this a long time? It's all. Just go to solve. Just fucking Google solve4y.tv. Okay. All right.
So yeah, I kind of want to speak about my website a bit more since we're doing the whole shout out to that. Like, and Matt Berkey, I just want to say I'm really a big fan of how he plays. He's not theoretically sound as far as I'm aware, but I think he has so much to teach because his intuition is just on fucking point. You see some shit that he does and he's just there, you know. And there's a reason he's so successful. I haven't watched enough of his hands to know exactly what it is, but he sound like that. That's the kind of person that maybe if he had like a few other more I don't know how theoretical sound. I don't know his game well enough, but assuming that my assumption is right, that he's not the most theoretical sound, but he's just like sick at intuition. If he had like a few more people to like balance that out, I think that could be a sick site. Even though I'm going to be in competition with it, I think that
everyone's got a site now. Everyone's competition. Like I don't know, man. Everyone's sponsored by a site. Everyone's working with a site. Everyone's got a product. They got a course. They got material. It's like holy. You know, it's almost becoming a little overwhelming to really follow along as a poker fan because so everything's all split up into this segregation in a lot of ways. Like you follow along with this streamer, it's hard to know what's happening in the entire world for a lot of people out there. So yeah, that's been my biggest trouble.
I'm super there with you. And even though my site will be like a poker training site to some extent, the niche that I'm going to be filling is just going to be like micro stakes to small stakes and maybe some tournament stuff as well, and maybe like some other stuff. But it's a lot of it is just going to be
section of poker. Okay, very segmented.
Not every section. I think that Doug. Oh, I should say this. I think upspin poker is really fucking good for high stakes. I think it's going to be really difficult to ever compete with that. I think he's absolutely just crushed the way you meant to learn it. Like having the same person do the same thing over and over in one course. I think if you're looking to learn mid to high stakes, that is probably like the way, you know. So shout out to Upswing Poker, as much as I think it's shit for new players. And yeah, the niche that I want to be filling apart from poker is more like lifestyle and having like guided meditations on there specific for poker, having loads of like, I don't want to go into too much of it straight now, but I really getting an all-round experience of how to improve oneself as a person whilst moving up in the poker ranks. And I will speak about that more another time, because it's not going to be out for like a month or something, but I'm super excited to do that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that too. Definitely going to check it out, because those are things that are all very interesting to me. How are we going? Oh my God, we're going for a while. Actually, I want to go back to that point you just said about the mainstream and Logan Paul and KSI. So I actually think that's going to become very much more popular. Like that sort of stuff's going to become the norm, because I think a lot of kids growing up now with YouTube and have been following along with these vloggers and the drama that they bring, the Logan Pauls, the Jake Pauls, the Keemstars, and all the stuff like that. So I think that's what there's going to be a lot of people out there who say, I want to become famous. I want to become popular. I want to become these people. And the only way I can compete with these people is to follow a very similar blueprint that these guys have followed, which revolve around the dramaticness, revolve around the negativity and the controversy and the fighting and those sorts of things like that. So I think we're going to see that become a lot more popular at a mainstream level, but we're also going to see, I guess, that approach. I guess like right now, let's say like we have mainstream and then we have like sort of like niche stuff. I think niche stuff is going to keep rising, but that mainstream stuff is going to be replaced by like the news will be replaced by Logan Paul versus, like that'll be the news. That'll be the thing we're on CNN in some years. You know, that's going to be the thing people pay attention to, because they grew up with these people. Like these people are in their lives all the time, and the idea of what a celebrity is going to shift away from the traditional mainstream musics and the movie stars, and probably not music stars, because I think those are still going to be out there, but a lot of the stars are now going to be the YouTubers and the Instagram people and all these things like that. And we're just in the infancy of those people building themselves up as brands. And I think after 20, 30 years of having that in our lives, those are going to be the Leo DiCaprios. Those are going to be the people everyone in the world knows. Like that, I just think that's what's end up going to happen. And we kind of can see that with how popular a story like this is, this boxing match.
So that's a really interesting perspective, because I've only ever really been on the other side of it, because all the content that I watch is like public intellectuals or debates from scientists and shit like that. And that is also expanding at a huge rate. The things that you're speaking about are definitely bigger right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're right. And in the next like 10 to 20, 30 years, that just skyrockets and gets out of control. But I do think, and I'm not super certain on it, but I have a lot of faith in people as a collective, that good information, especially with the internet, seems to over time be floating up to the top. The bad information seems to be going down to the bottom, because people are rational enough to be able to be like, oh, that's a good point, that's a bad point, that's a good point, that's a bad point. And I think that with this happening, people are going to realize what like the optimal solutions for being a person are. And I think a lot of those things are going to be like health, diet, nutrition, spirituality, introspection, things like that, communication. And I think that when that happens, and I think it's already happening to a huge extent, like the collective consciousness of people, of humanity, is just going to like rise and rise and rise and rise. And what happens as a person when you're, I want to say this is not sounding like hierarchical, but when you start living in those kind of realms where everything is, I don't know, just like, give me a word, sensei, give me a word.
Where everything is what? What's the word you're looking for here?
Ineffable, is joyful, is spiritual, is on another level where you can just, you can be, it's like life is this big game and big drama, and you're just above it all watching. Like, oh, that's kind of funny. But you don't. Yeah, enlightenment means something specific. Shout out to enlightenment. I have no experience with it, but
GTO, actually, GTO could be the word you're
it
looking for.
could be GTO.
Living in real life, that could be. This sounds like GTO.
I do love saying fuck GTO, but oh my god, it might be. Now, GTO means like balance. It'd be like, sometimes you have to be shit, sometimes you have to be great.
Well,
and you can't ever let them predict you. Huh?
Transcend, illuminated.
Ascend. Yeah, that all sounds fucking great. Woke, I fucking hate the word woke.
I aspire to be in that place at some point in time, Charlie. That's the place I aspire to be into, where I think differently about, like, it doesn't bother me. The idea of success doesn't bother me. The idea of these things don't bother me or concern me anymore. I aspire to be there one day.
And you're way ahead of the pack. Like, you're a pioneer exploring and telling people, like, it's really cool over here, guys. Come look at this. Fucking sick. Cutting down all the weeds and branches so other people can just walk freely through. And that is going to be super, super educational and beneficial for people. And I think once all of these things start happening, it's all going to start snowballing. People are going to see that people living this kind of lifestyle above all the stupid drama and negativity and trolling are having such a nicer, more pleasant existence, that people are going to aspire to be that and go further and further and further up. So I would like to think that I have enough faith in humanity that all this trolling, all this dumb, cringy boxing matches, that they're eventually going to die. But you're probably right. In the short term, at least, these things are probably going to skyrocket.
Yeah. We touched on a lot of things here, Charlie. Did you ever do? I have this written down somewhere in the chat about D-Negs. Did we ever? You talked about him briefly, but you said you wanted to say something more about him, though.
It was just something that was on my chest at the time, but I now have spoken so much about not like spring drama. It was just like, I'm not going to. I think he's an awesome person, and I think he's got loads and loads of good qualities. I think that he also has an extremely fragile ego and can't handle any criticism of any sort, and just really like slurps up on himself and then lashes out defensively and stops being able to think rationally based on that. And I think if he managed to break through his ego, which is a hard layer, and I think it's come from like tough times as a kid that he's had to really build up this defensive wall, and I can really fucking relate to that. But if he managed to break through that using communication, using like self-criticism, using all these things, I think he has the qualities as a human being to do fucking incredible things in the world, incredible things, and he's got the resources as well. But I think before he manages to do that, it's that thing I was saying, you can't sort out the world around you before you sort out yourself. Before he manages to get through his ego, which is fucking layers and layers and layers thick at the moment, I don't think he's going to be able to fully blossom into the person that he desires to be. And I think even if he heard me saying this, he would find like a dozen reasons to be like, no, it's not true because this, or I'm definitely not like that because this. And it's like, I'm probably not the person to change his mind on this. It's probably going to have to be like a girl, or like his mom. I don't know who he's close to.
Well, women have the power to change men's mind. That's for sure.
How has your love of your life but not girlfriend changed you so far?
I don't know. I think she left the chat because we mentioned earlier about if I have a girlfriend or not, and I said I 99%. I said I wasn't sure, and she's like, I'm leaving. So I think she left the chat now. So
I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry.
Now we got it. Now we got to talk. That's why, man. Is what it is. It happens. It happens. But we'll see. The book's still open, Charlie. The book's still open.
Yeah.
We'll see how I change. I don't know.
If she watches this, I think that she should be extremely happy with how far she has managed to make you progress from like, because so many people are used to be like, oh, boyfriend and girlfriend now. But if you've never had that in your life, and now you're super on the fence about it, and you're saying all these things about her being like above other people and speaking so positively about her, that change from where you were to where you are now is so big. But whereas other people, like if you compare you to other people, that's just like not a fair comparison because you're not other people. You can compare yourself to you. That's a legit comparison. And you seem to be super digging her. So here we go. Dug you out that hole.
I say too. I say the same thing. I'm like, listen, I know I never consider anybody my girlfriend. I haven't had a girlfriend in 4 years. I haven't wanted to date anyone that serious of a level. So if I'm considering, like, if I'm thinking about it, that's how I feel. Like it's a very, unique place for me to be. So there was one more thing I wanted to ask. What was it? Oh yeah. I remember I put this on Twitter, but it was about the hand, the Kevin Hart hand, where that amateur was at the table.
Oh yeah, that's funny. That was such a sick day.
And he gave her money back. And now I kind of know some things that happened with that hand in that situation and how they shot it and stuff like that. But what was it like being at the table? So if you guys didn't see, Kevin Hart, he like raised an amateur player bet the river, very small. He raised, she went all in with like 6 high, and he called all in with the king high, allegedly thinking he has a straight. I don't know if that's true or not, if he was trying to give her money or whatever. And then she was busted, but then he gave her money back or something of that nature.
Yeah. My read is that he genuinely thought he had a straight. I have like a few reasons to think that. One of which, when I was watching him, I had pretty good live reads on him. I thought he had the nuts on the turn. And it really looked like he had the nuts on the turn. Secondly, I don't think he's brazen enough, even though he's very, very good at acting, to try and pull something off in front of poker players. Trying to lie about poker to poker players is so fucking hard. It's like when people hacked ages ago, it was before I started playing, and they could see the other people's cards, and they did it in such a dumb, obvious way, but just like hero calling like Jack High for like 2x pot or whatever. Yeah. And that kind of shit, you can't, unless you're a professional poker player that's very high level, you can't lie about poker to other poker players. It's just like, you can't go with it. And I don't think it would be that silly to do it in that spot. And my read is that it was legitimate. So yeah.
Okay. That was a fun moment this year. I wish they had more of those cash games. That looked like a pretty good game to be in, Charlie. I'm going to be honest with you.
That was so fucking fun. We were so drunk. And it was nice not being like the chattiest person at the table as well, because I'm always the chattiest person at the table. But now it was like us. It was like me, Kevin, and D-Negs. And Kevin's always like the loudest.
Yeah, you were not the most talkative player at that table with Kevin Hart there. Kevin Hart is a professional talker, and then obviously Daniel Negreanu is a professional talker too. So it's gonna be who else was at the table? Liv was in the game, and who else was in the game?
Mila was there, and Faraz was there.
Faraz was in the game. Okay, cool. Yeah. Fun game. I wish they had more of those cash games. That was a good idea. I mean, they very obviously there was a very random idea they had, and it took them like a year to actually produce it and put it out. So I don't think it was very important on their content schedule, but I wish they hope they would do more things like that. So
I think the fact that it had Kevin in it just was so huge for them. But if he's not willing to do it again, then there's probably not too much point anymore. Yeah, like the things happened, Yeah.
It's unfortunate here, but let me give a couple shout outs here. Lee Cowie in the chat. No Foe. John Singleton. What up, John? Mark Rubin in the chat. What up, Mark Rubin? Luke, Shane, T. Jones. In through the window. Who else we got out here, man? We got a lot of people in chat. Been leaving a lot of comments. They've been here the entire time. Much love to you.
Travis Torelli. What's up? Oh, no, you've already said that guy. Dream Crusher. We love to see Dream Crusher. We need to slip D-Negs some shrooms. His name isn't
Travis Torelli. His name is Travis Anglin Alec Torelli. That's his name. He's Alec Torelli's cousin. Travis, what's up? Mike Holmberg, Nielsen, Jack Fleming, my guy Jack. What up, Big Jack? Robert Leeson, Poppy, Mikkel, Liam Fox, Tommy Howell. Who else we got out there, man? Jig Jones, Simon B, Witty Prod, Andrew Rivers. What up, Big Poppy? What's happening, man? What's going on out there? Go ahead, Charlie. You got it, man. You were doing well.
No, I was just trying to dip my toes in.
I realize I give very unique shout outs because I like really feel the shout outs, and that's what makes me like when I give someone a shout out, like I like really get like excited to fucking say their name. And I think that's what makes my shout outs unique is I'm like excited they're here. I mean, they're hanging out in my fucking podcast or my stream. That seems a little crazy to think about it.
I could do a shout
watching you.
I love how you do shout outs. I do them very different on my stream. I can do them how I would do it on my stream.
How would you do it? Let's hear it.
I would go up to the comments. I'd be like, I would read something that someone says. Oh my God. And I would just like go through the comments and be like, and Edward says, pretty sure the term you're looking for is woke as fuck. And as much as I appreciate that opinion, Edward, the word woke is maybe bottom 3 words that's ever existed in the human language. But shout out to Edward because we like a diverse vocabulary here in the stream. And then you go again, play some poker, and then I fucking love it. Charlie, do you ever worry that you may start to feel superior to the average unenlightened Joe with an apostrophe Y for Joey? In through the window, I do not worry about that too much. I think that I used to have that inside of me, but I actually more came from the other side. I didn't have that sense of self-worth. I didn't have that sense of superiority. And it actually took me a while to get up to the point where I can feel confident to speak my opinion and can feel confident to be out in public. But I love the fucking question. I love the sincerity. And I love the depth of the question. I love the little pun that you managed to use as well.
I don't feel that love. I don't feel the love. Like I don't feel that you love that question.
Oh, well, I actually do. I think it's like for me when someone asks something like that maybe like it's critical but not rude. For me that genuinely brings me like happiness to answer it. You know. And so maybe you don't feel it because it's like, I don't know, something about the way that I express it and the way that you express it isn't quite compatible. But for me, legit is super. I love it.
A lot of love for that comment. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any more. T. Jones says, Charlie, how often do you exercise? I tend to exercise once every day if I can. Like I didn't have any chance to exercise today because I had to go out, get some food this morning, had to meditate in a park, had loads of shit I had to do with a meeting, and I had to speak to Joey, and I had to play on Twitch. So, but whilst I was on the tube, I managed to do some wall sits, I managed to do some jumping up and down, I managed to, you know, I was running the spot, I had a cold shower this morning, I was dancing in the shower, running in the shower. Shout out to cold showers, by the way, cold showers being maybe the one piece of advice I could give people to try, and they always say,
Cold shower.
No, they say, fuck off with your cold showers. Fuck you. I'm not trying your cold showers because cold showers are the devil reincarnated in mornings. But it's one of those things that the scientific literature is there crystal clear, guys. If you want to do it, it will increase your immune system. It will wake you up in the morning. It will do so many good things to your body. We're evolved for cold showers. But if you can't manage them, don't worry about it, man.
Oh my God.
Takes a while.
That's
the kind of shout out that I do in my Twitch chat anyway.
Maybe we don't. Maybe we talk the same speed.
It's got to be a close one.
Same speed. I think we do talk. We both talk really fast. I can understand everything. Like people say Will Kassouf. I understand everything Will Kassouf says.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
People are like, he talks so fast. I'm like, I think he talks slow. Like I get what he's saying. You just can't comment on what he's saying because he doesn't stop talking. But you can understand what he's saying. Like he talks fast. But
I love Will. I find Will so entertaining. Jimmy Riddle says, how does being nice to everyone differ from SJW? Guys, there is a huge distinction. Being kind, being nice, being friendly is such a lovely thing to do. It makes everyone happy, makes everyone awesome. SJW is very associated with the warriors, with the people who look down on you, who shame you for being any race, any identity that doesn't fit in with theirs, shame you for having a different opinion, shame you for doing all these things. But they're trying to come from a good place. And they really are. They're trying to do what's best. Most of them, at least, they come from a good place. So we shouldn't judge the SJWs just for trying to be good people. We should only be critical and say, hey, we do not stand up for your bullshit, irrational, pseudo-scientific, pseudo-logical arguments, but we do not judge you for it. And maybe you have taught us something about ourselves, about our misogyny, because they do see shit that we don't see, guys. The people that are saying, hey, that's racist, hey, that's sexist, maybe that's too extreme of an opinion. Maybe that's not the exact wording you should use. Maybe there are better ways to express yourself that will bridge the gaps. But we do say, hey, actually, maybe I was being a tiny bit biased towards women in a negative way there. And maybe I can reflect and find the truth in what this person says, despite disagreeing with them. Find that little nugget of truth, take it in, and that makes us the winners, guys. Can you be that person that disagrees with someone, can be polite, but also learn something from that disagreement, learn something new from the interaction? Because if you can make everyone that you interact with your teacher, if you can make everyone that you interact with the person that can give you a new little bit of information, then you are going to be so much wiser and richer and fuller in knowledge than everyone else around you. And you're going to be able to do great things in this world. Whatever your desires are, you want to have sex with women, you want to make loads of money, you want to change the world, you want to help the world, you want to save lives. If you manage to take in all of those different opinions that you usually get defensive or aggressive at and say, hey, I don't judge them. In fact, that's a good point. I take that in. Then you're going to be able to achieve anything you want to achieve, or at least you'll be on the right path. Yeah, so that's the kind of shit I'd do.
Maybe I need to start giving shout outs like that. Maybe I need to do this style.
It's maybe we could mix it. Like I definitely would like to get in yours because you get in so many more people.
Hold on, let me try this. All right. Let me try this. Let me get into Charlie shout out mode. Hold on a second. Let me get Indian style in my chair. All right, I got a shout out. I'm gonna give a Charlie shout out here. This is what I think Charlie would think about this shout out. All right. I'm gonna talk the same speed though, and change my tone of my voice a little bit though.
Good luck.
All right, shout out in the chat. Robert Lee said, I need more energy, man. Listen, Robert, you say you need more energy. You need to trace the roots of your energy. Where does your not energy come from? Does your not energy come from you not drinking enough water? Does your not energy come from the people around you? Does your not energy come from the diet that you have? You need to really trace back where you get the energy from. Maybe you need more water. You need a glass of water. You got to stay hydrated. Maybe you need to talk to someone that's uplifting, that's positive, that doesn't bring you down, that doesn't not support your chase for positivity and chase for energy. Figure out what brings you energy. Is it dancing? Is it poker? Is it podcasting? Is it commenting? Is it porn? What is it? What's bringing you the energy, Robert? You need to figure out what's bringing you energy, what gets you positive, what gets you uplifted, what gets you fired up when you talk. Talk more about what gets you fired up when you speak, and when you speak about what you're fired up about, you're going to notice that the energy is flowing through you, and that energy is going to come up, Robert. You need to figure out where that energy is coming from. You figure out it's you, right? Is it dancing? For me, it's dancing. Maybe it's different for you. Maybe it's jacking off. That's cool, Robert. Jacking off gets you fired up. That's cool. You figure out where that energy is inside of you, man. When you figure it out, then you're more energetic.
Oh, that was fucking beautiful, man. You're a natural. Oh my God.
Right there.
That was super good.
I like that, man. I like that. That was good.
Maybe need to work a bit on keeping your voice from going like an octave above normal, but apart from that, it was fucking amazing.
I gotta keep it. Yeah, I get
you're getting like falsetto passionate. Like,
I know. I felt it. Like I really felt that. I gotta keep it down here and then go like this and talk about the energy, Robert. Bring that energy, Robert. Cold shower, Robert.
Come on, Robert. Just be energetic.
Robert,
you
got
this.
You bring the energy, right? For me, it's dancing. I get up, I start dancing around. I don't know. I listen to some music. That's what it is for me.
I've only been able to dance, and I mean that in like the literal sense, in the past like 6 months. Before then, I had such intense dance anxiety that even if I was dancing by myself, I would just freeze at the thought of someone else looking at me. And that comes so heavily from having like an Asperger's background. And now I had like a dance workshop. I went to an opera workshop recently in Sweden. Sing opera, by the way. Fucking love opera. Not the actual like acting it, but it's so good to get in touch with your natural voice and your natural way of sounding and speaking. But we had a dance workshop, and it was so fucking sick, just doing like intuitive moving. And I've always been so envious of people like you that can just like do whatever the fuck you want and do it whenever you want. And I'm finally at that point, and it feels so fucking good. So if anyone is out there and you feel like you can't dance, you can't be at the club, you can't move around in your body, that's because there's some insecurity in you. There's some hesitation to be the pure you. There's something in you that says, hey, what if someone is going to look at me and judge me? And you can work through that like I did. And the first way I would say is to do it whilst you're dancing in your living room by yourself. I danced to my fish. That was the next one after I danced in my shower to keep warm. And then I danced when drunk, and then I danced when on drugs. And then actually drugs were really bad. They just made me hyper conscious of everything. I should have chosen a different drug probably. Negative shout out to ecstasy. And then I finally got to the point where I can just dance sober in front of people now, and it feels good.
Yeah. Progression. That's the progression right there. I used to be like that. I used to be like critical of, or self-critical of how I was dancing, how I was looking. Now, I mean, I can dance better now too, which makes me feel better. But also, like, I don't mind just doing anything. I might shake my head. I might bounce my fucking butt. I might go crazy. Like, I have a fucking spasm. I don't really know. But listen, guys, people say they want to see Timmy in here. I mean, Timmy's he's studying right now. He's reading he's reading Mike Mattisell's book on how to play poker right now. But I can grab Timmy if he gets over here. But I mean, I don't know. Timmy's a little embarrassed. 30 on 30 people watching at the current moment in time.
It's a lot, Timmy.
And, he's a little embarrassed that there's only 124 likes on the video. He said so.
Damn, only 124 guys. How ungrateful is that? Come on, if you're gonna watch all of these 3 hours of content of joy, the littlest thing you could do, just click one time.
Timmy's embarrassed. If Timmy said 150 comes in here, this is what YouTube. You need more upvotes. Like, what the fuck, right? Listen, smash that like button and subscribe, all right? I have literally the fucking perfect impression of some of these YouTube guys. It's like, all right, guys, let's listen, smash that like button, if you want to get notifications, hit the bell, and listen, I got a question, right? Do you like pepperoni or do you like sausage? Leave your comment below, because I really care about what you people that I don't fucking know have to say. If you like pepperoni or sausage, because I want to increase my engagement in the comments, so just leave your comment below, and I'll pick one out. I'll give them 1,000 V-Bucks, and then smash the like button, and we can keep on rolling around down here. It's like, oh my God, every one of these guys says it like that. It's like, what? Leave a hey, comment below. You like this or that? It's like, you don't give a fuck, man. It's just this. It's such this fucking ridiculous, man. Like, I'm like, oh my God, shut the fuck up, man. I just like, listen. I don't know. I get it's a good strategy, right? But come on, you don't give a fuck if the guy likes pepperoni or sausage below. Let's just admit that. We don't care, but you're just trying to get some people that don't know that to get engaging in the comments. That's what I'm saying, man.
I super agree. And I'm about to get on the YouTube video grind, and I really want to, because I need, apparently it's like pretty legit to have to say like, yo, can you like it? So I'm going to have to like come up with legitimate ways of saying, hey, I want this comment. I want to hear what you say, because I actually do care about what people say.
I
but
do
it's
too,
so
but
hard to be.
I know
it depends though.
Not authentically, like, do you care about Dude, where do you think the best landing spot is? Like, you don't give a fuck where the best landing spot is, Jerry. Okay, calm down. I know little Jerry here doesn't care. He just asks Jerry. Comments.
Such like, classic Jerry.
What's your favorite poker hand? Leave your comment below. Like, I don't give a fuck what your favorite poker hand is. I'm gonna be honest with you, but I know you're gonna comment there because it's an easy question to answer. That's GTO. So, I'm like yelling. People are coming. Hold on. They want to see Timmy, guys. Hold on.
They crushed 150, by the way.
I know. See what happens? You give him a little nugget. I give him Timmy, and all of a sudden,
so much love.
You ever met Timmy before?
I don't know who Timmy is actually.
Oh well, then you'll meet him. Here, take one more comment from the chat here.
I love meeting new people.
Timmy should be in the Poker Hall of Fame. Timmy's a good player.
How do you feel singing in front of people, Joey?
I'm not a good singer, and I would just rather use someone else's voice, like I did for my music video. It's going to be a great summer starring Gus Hansen.
But would you feel comfortable singing now in front of people despite not being a good singer?
No, I wouldn't.
I think we found your version of my dancing, sir.
But I would, but I'm not going. I don't intend on to. So here,
not yet.
Charlie, do you like eggs or ham? Take that question. I'll get you.
All right, give me a better question, guys. Once Timmy's coming. What's your favorite psychedelic drug, guys? Vote. There's basically going to be between the top two because it's the ones that people are most into. Not going to say what they are because I don't want to promote bad things, but I want to see what other people say. Have you ever experienced any synchronicities and/or what's your opinion about that topic? Fuck yeah, man. They're fucking everywhere at the moment. I'm not going to speak about it too much, but fucking insane at the moment. Mushrooms. Hey, it's Hannah. I just read it like her voice. Shout out to Hannah Lessington, guys. Check out her YouTube channel, by the way, if you can see her. She is maybe the most beautiful person inside and out that you'll ever see. Imagine saying to less conventionally attractive young Charles in 6th grade, hey, you're going to date this person, and then showing them a picture of Hannah. He would lose his shit. Timmy's cooler than I expected. Holy crap.
What's up, man?
Hey, man.
Daniels today. I'm ready to drink, man. I heard you talking to him. You heard you said fuck GTO? Did you say fuck GTO?
I said GTO has got to go. Fuck GTO. GTO is propaganda that's ruining your life, Timmy. What do you have to say for it?
This douchebag, Doug Polk. I would crush this guy, Doug Polk. This guy's a fucking fish. He just runs hot. You see, he's playing on Poker After Dark or Poker Night in America. This dumbass went all in with the King 5. I mean, what the fuck's he doing? I crushed this motherfucker, man. And I just think that we see a lot of fishy plays from people. And the only reason that they're playing these things is just because they run hot. And I just run bad. You know what I'm saying, Charlie?
Alcohol seems to make you pretty insightful, Timmy. Have you got any other opinions on this Doug Polk you speak of?
Facts in poker that I would crush. They're so bad. They play hands so bad. It's insane.
How come you haven't got up to the big stakes yourself yet, Timmy?
Oh my God, that's a great question. I just run bad. Like I have,
really?
Whenever I have kings, they just fucking have aces, or I flop top pair, they flop bottoms. I just run so bad, but I play well. I watch all the books. I'm reading Mike Madisau book right now, but I'm just unlucky, Timmy.
No, I super get you, Timmy. There are so many awesome players out there, and I've noticed that people like you're so like in tune with technology and everything that you seem to accumulate in things like the Twitch chat, YouTube comments. Yeah, really? Oh, what are the chances? Oh my God, yeah. I love Jamie Staples. Of course you do.
He did a video blog, and he was fucking eating a ham sandwich, and he talked about GTO, and I love him. He spent a spin and go, and he opened up a chest, and I'm like, chest.
Oh my God, no way, Timmy. So you like chests as well? That's so cool.
I like the chest. I like the games,
I think you have it in you to just be one of the best poker players, and I think you know that. I think you see it.
No, I do. I know I could be good. I just run bad, and I work hard, and my friends are all good, and like I play with my grandma and my family sometimes. But the thing is, when I play with them, I always win. I crush them.
That's exactly it.
You know what, Charlie? I actually might need to call you out for a heads-up match because I've seen you play. I think you're a little weak. I'm going to be honest with you. You made a bad play with pocket 8s. You made a weak play with pocket 6s, and you gave some reason. I'm laughing. I'm like, this guy's a douchebag. He's not even that good. He sucks. I would crush this motherfucker, but I just don't have the bankroll right now. But if I had the bankroll you have, I'd beat you for sure.
Yo, let's find someone to stake you, and like let us do this, man. I do have a weak heads up game, and you're right. You've seen some little leaks in my game, and maybe after the game you can give me the insight into what I'm missing. And I this is actually almost. I'm getting a bit of deja vu with people that were speaking earlier in the YouTube chat. So maybe there are some like-minded people out there for you to meet.
I agree. I'm my first YouTube video. My channel's coming out. I'm making a video, and I know I'm gonna hold them hand. And you can stay tuned for me, Big Timmy. You guys know me. You know my game. I'll drink this whole fucking bottle. I don't give a fuck, douchebag.
Whoa, calm down, Timmy. Oh, we got a badass over here in the Twitch chat. Fuck, I never knew badasses would come so like hugely packaged.
I gotta go, Charlie. My book, my Mike Mattisau's book here. I gotta go. I'll see you later, okay?
It's all right, man. You get back to the grinds. Good luck out there. Try to run better.
Thanks, Charlie. Fucking Timmy, I hate when Timmy. Sorry, he takes up a long time, man. I don't know, Timmy.
It's all right. He takes over. He's a big personality. I can see why he might be the kind of like star of your show.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. He comes out, you know. It's like he's in Twitch a lot though. Like I think he watches your stream too.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen maybe him or maybe there's 1,000 other people like him.
Exactly. That's where Timmy the internet. You can follow him on Instagram, Timmy Poker Warrior on Instagram. He'll be. I know voices give me nightmares. Listen, this is what I imagine. I always try to imagine what are these guys like. And I come to Timmy. Timmy is the ultimate representation of what I imagine these people are like.
He's like the quintessential Twitch keyboard warrior. I feel it, man.
Like I'm always wondering, like, who's telling me to go die in the chat? I'm imagining it's a guy like Timmy. Like the Bud Light, the Jack Daniels in his hand. Like, oh my God, this guy sucks. He can't even beat $50 heads up. It's like, calm down. Yeah. That should be the new voice of Bad Beat Stories for sure. That should be your voice. You have the Timmy voice when you start talking to your friend. That's a Bad Beat Story. So
I need that.
Any last thoughts before we wrap things up here? We've only been going for 4 hours. That's not bad.
Holy shit, that's intense.
That's not bad at all.
Yeah, a lot of things. I like seeing this side of you, bro. I'm not sure how often it comes out, but from the reaction I've seen in the chat, and I think the reaction you're going to get from people, this show is all about you. Do not forget it. Joe, can we get some positivity for Joey in the chat and in the comments? Like his video. Tell him what you like about his personality. Tell him that you like seeing the real him, because at the moment what I see potential. I see potential waiting to be dug up from the ground, ready for the soil to be ruffled and for him to blossom. Blossom like a beautiful orchid. Blossom like the beautiful rose he is. And he is going to take the world by storm. He is humble. He is funny. He is grateful. He is insanely driven to do the things he sees as right. He's confident. He looks like a Greek god probably. And
that's true.
And he wears tank tops like a boss. Guys, let him know, because even though we see him as this confident puppy, we see him as this big personality, I think underneath the layers, if you pick them back one by one, there's this unique personality waiting to be loved, waiting to be cared for. And once we can start giving love and appreciation and validation for that side of him, I think he's going to expand. His emotions are going to go further and further and further. And maybe then one day he can call on his girlfriend. And that's what we want for Puppy. We want him and the big GF. We want him to have a wedding ring on his finger. We want to see him dance his first dance at his wedding. And I can see he's getting teary thinking about it now. Oh my God. We just want to see this side of him, guys. Send him love. Just do it through your screen. Send him the positive energy you can. It will be good for you to practice it. You got this, guys. Everything you ever wanted to say to him, compliment him now. Leave it in the comments. Leave it in the YouTube comments. Subscribe to his videos. That's a good reason to subscribe. And guys, this has been a beautiful experience. I'm so happy to have shared it with all of you.
Hey,
getting real fucking sleepy.
It was like church. Damn, like a preacher. Holy my God. All right. We may do once a week show where you just talk once a week for an hour. And imagine when we just do an hour once a week. I mean, my God, people would love it. We might need to do an hour of poker. We call it hour of poker with Joey and Charlie. I don't know. We might need our hour poker week. We just talk poker for 1 hour. What's been happening this week? I don't know. What's this like about fucking talking about? Compact.
I can get behind that.
Might be better. So what's your plan? When are you streaming again, kid? When's Bankroll Challenge? When are you winning it? How long till you win it? My predictions are 1 month, but that's just me personally.
All right, I'm gonna say that I want to be able to do it within the next 2 months, but I do have to go outside the country for a while, and or maybe 3 months, because I also want to play W Coop. So I'm gonna stream some of the W Coop and let people watch all that. So yo, if you want to watch me win the fucking W Coop main, I've already won the Scoop main, and that probably means that I'm gonna win the W Coop main because, you know, spirituality and stuff says so. Universe, coincidences, why not? And I'm going to be trying to grind tomorrow, but it really does depend on my energy. Like I stopped early today because my energy was just low, run bad. I wasn't getting my rants out in the chat. And yo, if anyone's like a regular in the Twitch stream, they'll understand the power of positive thought. They'll understand how fucking good we are at flopping sets when everything's flowing properly. The power of the law of attraction. Anyone out there love the law of attraction? Let me know in a Facebook message. We love the law of attraction. We love manifestation. We love to know the secrets of the universe that other people say are pseudo-scientific. And I appreciate it. Guys, go subscribe to my YouTube. Go leave comments. Go tell me why I'm an idiot. Go tell me why I'm a genius. Go tell me why you hate me, why you love me. Go tell me what you love about Joey, fucking Puppy, Chicago, Timmy, Ingram. And I appreciate it, man. It's been cool.
Goddamn. All right, guys. That's what it is. Please go watch Charlie win the W Coop main event. He's going to take it down, and then he's going to give out $1,000 million to the chat too after he wins the main event. I think that's it, right?
Yep. Nailed it.
That's it. Guys, we'll be back another time. Charlie will be back. I'll be back. My next video is going to be Monday. That's all I know. Charlie's next video will be...
I think it might be posting it tonight.
Charlie's my first posted tonight.
Yeah, I think my first Bankroll Challenge highlights video will be posted today. Well, so check that out.
Cocaine Charlie.
I am teetotal. I'm no drugs at the moment for like, I have been for like 2 months, and I'm gonna be for an extra like months.
I always like when people say I'm on cocaine. They're always like, Bobby, you're on cocaine. I'm like, no, I'm just not on cocaine. But I mean, if I took cocaine, I can't imagine how I'd be. So.
Yeah. Cocaine makes me kind of relax.
Guys in the chat, much love. Thanks for watching. And let us know what you thought on Twitter. We love Twitter at @JoeyIngram1 at Charlie Carroll. Please go let us know what you think right now. Charlie, thanks for coming out, my friend. We'll talk soon. That's it. Peace out. Adios, everybody. Take care. That's it.